Oh, we're live. Okay. So this is a live, whoops. Okay. Now we're live. Okay. Got it. I am Stephanie R. Kogarth, and this is a live stream on, so it's 5:23 p.m. Okay. October 23rd, 5:23. That's when we're starting. All right, I'm tracking all the numbers and all the synchronicities. This is specifically, I'm going to be talking about energetic circuitry, and we're going to test the, I want to say we're going to test what's working and what is being interrupted. What day is today? Today's Saturday. Okay. I'm a global grid worker. I create living systems. I've actually got so much data, and I'm connecting so many levels of various groups, various energetic circuitry that I'm just going to see what's interrupted and what the purpose of today's live stream is to start to connect some of the larger grids that are all functioning on different, they function like gears, and ultimately there's going to be a large synchronous movement of many groups that are going to be like gears that just fall together and everything is synchronous. But right now we're still experiencing a certain amount of delays, different kinds of interruptions. So I was going to talk today about different kinds of interruptions and what we can do, and you as a participating component, whatever in whatever group you're in or whatever your circumstance is right now, there's a place for all of these different levels, but they function at different speeds. It's very much like building a circulation system in the body. Some people function as capillaries, some people function more as veins, some people function as arteries, etc. And some are kind of, I'm one of those who kind of have whole hubs to orchestrate with a variety of different levels and sizes that all need to be coordinated. We're working very much with the movement of water. It's really about a resource distribution system to deliver all things. So we're delivering whatever is needed to wherever it needs to go. Water functions as a newspaper. It carries light codes, vibrational frequencies. We're transmitting a lot in water. We're transmitting a lot through our bodies, and also we're connecting people via certain groups according to where they're, the level that they're operating in. So right now there's a my speech may get very nonlinear or totally incomprehensible, and I might need blocks of silence. What I do is I run all of the current, an enormous amount of energetic current through my body. One of the areas that I'm specializing in, my current task, is the financial system of the United States. The initials being US, so it's us. I'm also functioning as a spokesperson for species of, for all of life, And I'm specializing in bridging all of the networks of various scales and sizes to allow all of life to communicate with itself in a way that is much more comprehensive than it has done before. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, the way that happens. Regarding water, again, this is not going to be very ordered right away. Stop picking at me, or I'm going to put you back in your house. I might put her on her perch for a minute. It's possible, probable, that this call may be interrupted in a variety of ways, and we're just going to observe it and see where it lands. And it's all purposeful. All of it is purposeful, so I'm not judging it. I know that, for example, it just so happens it has landed in a synchronous way that my groceries are going to be delivered sometime during this call. So we're just going to look at the clock and see when that happens, because it represents a delivery of food, groceries, and water. I've got distilled water in there too. And the animal's food is coming there too. So we're just going to see what time that arrives. It's possible. It's funny because I said I was going to, I didn't know when this call was actually going to land. We've been experiencing a lot of deliberate interferences that function as in the lower strata. Usually it's very high drama, and it's designed to be something that it kind of pulls me off path or disengages my focus from the task at hand. And we just observe where that happens. It's not going to last, but there's been a certain amount of very high drama here too today. So car alarms deliberately set off, and you know, a lot of us that have been doing this for a long time can we just know the way it works. You know, you get the black helicopter circling, or you get something that is designed to just kind of throw gravel in the path. Some disturbance of one kind or another. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to that, but just going to observe where it happens. It's 5:30 now. I'm aware that the group, I've got 3 groups right now. I've got many groups, but on Facebook, I have I've started a number of groups over the years that I've then passed on to other people. Soul Aspects United, children who went through a lot, all sorts of groups like that. But I'm primarily I work in 3 groups that do different things. One is Queen's Chamber, which I haven't talked about before on a live stream. Not too much. I'll talk about it a little bit tonight. That's a private group. It's only got 5 people. It's for a very specific purpose. I've also got the Ascension Arc, which is a public group. If you look for it, it's the Ascension Arc with a K. You have to type it in all capitals. And the purpose for that is that's about planetary uprising, planetary rebellion, and practical strategies for ascension. So if you're listening to this and you want to join that group is for the for kind of the struggles that you go through on the ladder of ascension, so which are often very fraught with a certain amount of conflict. So if you've got information to share that has any degree of conflict related issues to it, that's where that needs to go. But you're welcome to join that group. It's a very allowing group. We don't keep that one is very broad, and because there's a certain amount of conflict and turmoil that just takes place in the early stages of ascension. Ultimately, all of these groups have very specific jobs in the energetic circuitry of the grid system of the Earth. Whoops. Okay. And then the group slightly above is called All Creation, and again you have to type it in all capitals. And that group is just for kind of the higher strata. I'm seeing 2, 3, 5, 3, 2. So the 5 is the change, and it's going off in 2 directions. Like a palindrome. The all creation is for new creation of the divine template, the divine blueprint, and contributions that basically after you've cleaned up your entire act, after you've gotten, not that there's never anything else to do, but it's a much more pristine space, and we keep it that way. Well, okay, I need to move over. There we go. It's a smaller group. The Ascension Arc still has a lot of people in various stages of turmoil. The first wave of Ascension was very dense. It took a long time, and there's a certain group of first wavers who did the bulk of the heavy lifting, kind of like they bust through the wall. The second wave is about 10 times bigger. I know I said this in my past live stream, but just in case you didn't get it, I want to talk. Oh, I do want to say that toward a purpose, I may be jumping up if I have to urgently pee. What happens on these live streams is your attention comes to me. It's also, it works outside of time, so it doesn't matter when you watch this. I'm going to put you down because I'm tired of you picking at me. Hang on a minute. Let me put down this bird. That's Tia. Here she goes. Stay over there. Your attention comes to me. I'm running it through my own system. We are making energetic adjustments as needed. And it's very important that as soon as we feel prompted, I'm encouraging you to do this. If you want to make the process of healing, the process of healing the planet, the process of connecting the grid system, if you want that to go faster, I encourage you to take your dogs out to pee as often as possible. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. It won't surprise me. You can expect, I should say it that way. You can expect sudden urges to pee. When that happens, it's an indication that your energetic signature is ready to release something. And I encourage you to pee as quickly as possible, because it's water. All water speaks to all water. So the instant that you flush the toilet, okay. The instant that you flush the toilet, the water, everything that has gone through your body, solid or liquid, carries your own personal energetic signature. So I always tell the people that I work with, never waste a flushing toilet. I never waste one. Your energetic signature, first of all, there is no waste. There's no waste whatsoever. Everything is informational. Everything is used by something. So as every time you flush the toilet, make it an affirmation. Say, I now let go of everything that does not serve my highest path. I now let go. Try not to say release unless you want to, but do it with intention. If you say release, that means you're taking it back. So you can use that toward a purpose, but it's better if you say let go. If we're talking about like certain things that have held up the planet, if you say, I now let go of all blockages, make some sort of intention that everything that has gone through you represents something that you no longer need, whatever it is. So it represents density. If you choose to, you can also do what I do, and you can say, I'm doing this on behalf. It's not only you, it's also, yes, and you're going to do this on behalf of all humanity, on behalf of whatever group you identify with. Whoops. Okay. That was Bilal who just, so all synchronicities, every time somebody texts me, that was Bilal. And right now I'm aware that he's got a number of ground crew groups that are all very similar to mine toward specific purposes. And right now we're linking those. And it's interesting because last night we were trying, all of this is purposeful, but you can't, it's like connecting. Thank you. Okay, talk tomorrow, he says. Sleep well, sister, talk tomorrow. It was very interesting because we tried to connect, Bilal Kliani. We tried to connect last night. We've been trying. We keep missing each other. You know the way synchronicities work or don't work, where you know how it is when you feel somebody in your orbit. I've known that I needed to connect with them for a long time. It's like the strong ones, you can feel them coming. Rick Dewars is another one. I'm going to wind up talking to him personally sometime soon. But you just kind of feel people in orbit, and you know they're on their path, and your paths are going to intersect because you can feel it, but I can't exactly tell when. But and they're usually, we're aware of each other. We just are. So last night, Bilal and I were trying to connect, and what typically happens in the technology circuits is that depending on the level of energy that you're trying to connect, like for example, I haven't been able to use Zoom at all in years. And we've had computer professionals coming in, and they say it should work, but it doesn't. It's purposeful. I'm not supposed to be on that. When I'm supposed to be on that, I'll be on that. There's a reason I'm doing all my work on Facebook right now. Well, I won't get into that. There's a reason that it's this instead of another branch of social media, which I'm connected to, but I'm not working on right now. This is really my primary focus. I do a great deal of work. All my calls are on Facebook Messenger. So I've known that Bilal and I were syncing up, and last night we tried to have a call, and we missed each other for a couple of days, but then he sent me a text. He said, "Are you available?" And I said, "Yes," right? So we were trying to get on. And typically what happens is you will connect via text first. Why? Because it's lowest and slowest. It's most linear. So we're trying to kind of tack down that. And then the next level up, you'll want to connect with someone. You're going to need to hear, to get eye contact and light codes on a screen and connect with their energetic signature that way for a broader bandwidth, and also hear the sound of their voice. That's going to be important too. So even though I've heard the sound of his voice, we haven't been one-on-one yet. He and I, we know it's coming. I may have to take a break. Okay, I pay very close attention to when dogs need to go out, because, and for a reason that I'll talk about in a minute, whenever we're talking to nature, so I'm putting my energetic signature into basically the sewer system and the human collective via a certain route. My dogs, when they tell me they have to go out, I know that it's their job to talk to all of nature. They're informing. It's basically like up to the minute newsflash. If my dogs suddenly have to pee, I know that I need to let them out because they have to do the same thing that I have to do, which is deliver specific information about the state of things, particularly in the, oh, thank you. You're going to stay there. Thanks. That's Luke. He's a black lab. About the state of things in the apartment, and also particularly this apartment because of what I'm doing, specifically the job. I should have had a fan on, drat. I may have to go get it. You know what I'm going to do? We're going to have, at some point, we may have to take an intermission, and I'm just going to leave it running. When the groceries get delivered, I'll go get the fan too, because I can already tell the energy is heating up. But it's all good. I'm just going to let this run. Okay. Also, your energy from the collective, everyone who's watching this, is running through me. I'm tracking all the synchronicities. So regarding the flow of water, as you begin to connect with the higher grid, or whatever grid you're on, we're not talking about the 3D. We're not really talking about the 3D grids. We're talking. That doesn't mean. Somebody said this to me the other day, that when I say 3D, she gets confused because she thinks it means physical forms. We're still going to have physical form in fourth density. That's not the way I mean it. So you're going to maintain your physical form. I'm not saying that the physical form is bad. It's 544, as I said that. It's not a judgment on physicality. We very much need all of that energy grounded. And ultimately, the goal is to align all of the grids fully grounded so that all of our five senses and our sixth sense are lined up and brought online directly in alignment with the multiplicity of all of the clairsenses, the array of clairsenses that are all also coming online. So we're going to stack all of those, and everyone's going to have it. There's a way that is coming online. I would like this to be more symmetrical. It's me. There we go. So regarding the flow of water, the frequencies. Oh, so I should say that when you drink a lot of water, I'm going to work on 5 sips of water. You can program your water ahead of time, but then you can also drink it intentionally. So certain things are going to be held and programmed into the water, but then I also encourage you to adapt it moment to moment. So it's partially stable, like a mantra. You know how I was talking with James Casey about this the other day, and we were discussing the difference between playful, fluctuating intentions moment to moment, which are a higher component of the programming, and playful prayer, setting intentions moment to moment that fluctuate all the time, and it's very mobile and very adaptable. And if you do it differently every single time, so don't say it the same way every time. If you are working on the strata, that if your aim, I should say it that way, both are required. We need a certain amount of stability. So the reason we use crystals is because it holds a certain frequency, and you can program that to do something very specific that's going to be constant. And then when you take that into your body, which is constantly in a constant state of flux, will pick up that which you program the water for. So I'm going to do that now. But then you can also change it every single time. I'm choosing to be in gratitude for the water, so it's important to get yourself in a state of gratitude. Once I'm taking the water that is already charged with it's already holding those frequencies, and also whatever whatever frequencies are coming in from the galaxy when Bilal, when Altia and the Council of 24, or whatever group you're working with, puts frequencies or upgrades into the water, you can also add yours on top of that. And then it becomes part of the living system that's very, very mobile, and you contribute, your playful spirit. You can change it every single time. But I also encourage you to say, bless this to my body, or bless this to my body. And as it goes through me, it adds my energetic signature. This is you or me, whatever. It adds my energetic signature to the blessing of the planet, or whoever you can send it out to. And then you could also, another way to kind of stack we want this thing to pack an energetic wallop. So you can also take individual action to sip it one sip at a time. If you wanted to have the energy of initiation or leadership on behalf of humanity, I am deciding to commence this live stream or commence a new system of prosperity for humanity. And I'm going to take one sip in order to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you just feel that go through you. And then it's going to pick up my energetic signature. And then when I eventually pee, I know that the energy is going to, or I could say something like, I like to play around. I really enjoy kind of playing around with what else could it do? Now that I've set this intention, what else could I do with it? If you've got pure water that's going into a sewer system, I love the idea of saying the sewer system represents, corruption in wherever. Corruption in government globally, it's 550. And with my own purity, it is my strong intention that when I pee in the toilet, it's going to get flushed out and it's going to purify all of the waters of the earth. Make it up, but mean it. Whatever you do, just mean it. Play around with what you want it to do. And then you set a strong intention, which you can change every time if you want to. You can program it to hold your intention if you don't really want to think about it. Like if you're running and you need to focus on something else and you don't want to be thinking about it every single time you drink water, you could program it once and just have that be carried over. But you could also change it every single time. And I like to do it that way. I like to program it so it's holding a certain frequency of all of the benevolent frequencies of all of the healers that I know, that all of the healers that we are connected to in all of the benevolent groups, all of the benevolence of the universe to assist me in the charging and the activation of this water. And then I'm just going to have it go out to the globe, to all living beings of all kinds. And I sipped 2 then because I want it to be a partnership with all species. So as long as I've done that, I'm just going to do 3 for catalyzation. Whoop. Hi, I'm on. Are those the groceries? Thank you, sweetie. And the last, my last live stream. Thank you, honey. My last live stream, we were talking about, I was moving the container of water from one side to another, and the screen went dark. And so the light went down. We were experiencing, what time is it when you brought that in? So it's 5:52. Thank you. That's Calico. And I was, because we were experiencing issues with the connection, if you've seen the other one, you know that the screen went dark. You guys could see me and there was no interruption. but I was unable to see anything. So, or very little. I could sometimes, you can go back and watch it. You can go to the Ascension Arc, and I'll also I will post it. I'll post it on my YouTube channel. I haven't done that yet. I do have a YouTube channel. If you want to, you can go to the Ascension Arc. Again, it's in capitals. You can find that on YouTube. Also, I always forget to say this. Thank you. If you would like to make a donation, if you're able to make a donation, you can find the link on, my name is Stephanie R. Kogarth. So you can find the link on my page on Facebook. Okay, hang on a minute. Oh, and the last live stream, the screen got very dim and we were playing around with the energetic circuitry real time, and it was me and the people who were watching. And this really is a lot of the work that gets done. Involves the energy of the people who are watching, and also a certain number of, there's just a certain global circuit that we're connected to. And so what we do is we go to certain blockages, and we go into them and kind of ameliorate the blockage, or we make adjustments. And the last live stream, we were kind of doing a little bit of that in real time. So I'm going to do 3 for a tri-wave and catalyst for change. 3 is catalyst for change. It's also ascended masters. It's also a triangle, triad. And I'm going to say that this commences it's a catalyst for change. Somebody had suggested hold it in front of your heart. Anna Reynolds had said that, and I didn't see because it was so dark and I couldn't see anything on the screen. I didn't. Oh, and it's almost 555. I'm going to take 3 sips at 555 toward Thank you. Catalyst for change on Earth, bringing in benevolence, linking in all of the groups, the individual, the small group, and the greater collective. So we'll just commence that today on the 23rd, which is also a 5. Nice. And it's also a 5 that is, because it's the 23rd, it's a 2 and 3. So when you add numbers or when you reduce numbers, it carries the energetic quality of those. So if something reduces to a 5, but it has a different quality, if you get a 5 from a 1 and a 4, or if you get a 5 from a 2 and a 3, a 2 and a 3 is going to be the tri-wave, and it's also going to be the number of partnership. So I like that very much. If it was, say, the 14th, I would say, well, it reduces to a 5. It would be 1 and a 4, so leadership or new thought into structure. But that would have a different quality than a 2 and a 3 does. I'll take the 2 and the 3. Also, the 2 and the 3 are sequential. So they're linked already. So I like that idea. So I'll drink to that. Ingratitude. So let's do this. I was working with James Casey the other day. Tremendous terrain warrior, earth guardian. He's in Stone Ridge. It's going to be important. It's not urgent. Are you leaving, honey? Okay, thanks, sweetie. Okay. Yeah, we're listening to Stella whine because her girl left. It's not the same. She's never alone. But she likes the person she likes. And she loves Calico. Hi, honey. It's okay. We're still here. Energetic circuitry. Oh, the qualities of the water. So you can program it, send it through your body regarding, she's back, regarding grid points. We're all stepping into a larger role of stewardship of the earth. And so are the animals. So everyone is receiving an upgrade. The animals are coming online. The animals in our immediate vicinity, most of them are stepping into, it's not that they were ever actually asleep, but everyone is receiving an upgrade or new awakening. So a lot of them will be stepping into greater individuality if they're dogs or cats or horses also. The closer the animal is to human interaction, the more the two of you are sharing energy. So they tend to pick up a greater individuation, which is also, we give them names, for example, and they know them. So they step into that. So they're going to have a different quality than, bye-bye, honey. They're going to have a different quality than, say, a feral cat who doesn't have a name. It's not that they're, they have a different kind of sovereignty, but their job is different. So when Luke suddenly has to go to the bathroom, he's doing a very, very good job processing, assisting me. We assist each other in processing the energy at this exact location. And then when I pee, I put it in one area that that's where the human energetic signature is kind of red. It speaks to water through the artificial network of tubes. And when Luke goes, he puts the news directly in the grass, and it's picked up by all of life. It happens a lot faster than we think. But if you're experiencing digestive upsets of any kind, as we link with other people in the network, we're stepping into, we're leaving the same kind of individuation that we've had. So it can feel very unstable, destabilizing to people, especially if they don't know what to expect. A lot of them, that's, if it happens too quickly, if they don't have enough or the right kind of support, it can really be bloody terrifying. We are used to, having our thinking in, particularly when we're unawakened. We're used to thinking that our thoughts are our own. And I heard a really good analogy the other day. I can't remember who said it. I would give credit if I knew who it was. I don't remember who it was, but it was really good. Somebody said it's like if you're going to a bowling alley, they have lanes and they've got gutters. I don't bowl, but they've got gutters to catch like rogue balls or something. And stepping into the two is stepping out of the third dimension and into fourth density, fifth dimensional consciousness. It's like, it kind of like the guardrails are down. So the ball, like everything's drifting. It's like there's no real strict differentiation between lanes anymore. Although it's funny because in some ways there is. Though, for example, those of us who are going up into embracing the group network, it's pluralism, and it's all you're moving into like the quantum field more. And there's a much greater connection with all other people. The energy is very circular. So some of us are comfortable in that kind of chaotic basis for existence. It's a kind of a nest of a certain amount of chaos, and some of us really thrive on that. It's extremely creative. And other people, it just scares them shitless. They don't know how to, they're afraid they're going to lose control, and they try to pin everything down and tack it down and staple it down and, stick to the point and tell me what you're going to say. They want everything ordered. And that tends to be more difficult for, they're difficult things to merge. Let me put it that way. It can be done, but that's the trick, right? The qualities of water, we can play with all sorts of these things. They do different things depending on what you add to water. So clearing, as you're stepping up into connecting with other people, and then I'm going to get back to the ground crew groups, because we're going to start to move to, we start by meeting others of like minds, and we go into small groups, and then those groups expand. The hubs start to merge, and then the downloads get bigger because you're bringing a whole group online. It's kind of like whole sections of the orchestra are added at a time. It's no longer all all the violins are playing. Suddenly you have all the strings coming in. They're coming online that way. Ultimately, we're going to have everything in the band, everything in the orchestra, and a full array of chorus, and all living creatures are going to have their own energetic signature. And that's what makes it so interdimensional and magical. We're not quite there yet. It would really blow the circuits if we did it too soon. We have to kind of stack the approach, and we also have to be a little delicate about it, because some nervous systems, some frequencies or some sensitivities are very, 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 very sensitive, and others are colossal. So you have to be careful and merge these things with a degree of both strength and appreciation of the magnitude, the sheer enormity of what we're trying to do here, which has never been done in any universe, in any galaxy ever. It's never been done. So it's a whopping task. It requires a great deal of sensitivity and also a great deal of strength, a lot of patience, a lot of fortitude, and we're all here doing the same thing. So this is a very difficult thing to, I would like to stop saying that. Organize, I know I say this every time, it's 6:06. Organizing this material in a way that's deliverable is a challenge. When, in the Bible, or in most religious texts, even if it's not religious, when the angels come down and they meet humanity, no matter how benevolent they are, you could have an archangel, you could have, the Virgin of Guadalupe. The first thing they always say is, be not afraid, because the difference in scale is so extreme. I remember hearing Bashar say that one time too, that people always say, I want contact, I want contact, I want contact. And they're really keen for contact. No, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. No, show yourself, please. They're really excited. And then there was ET contact, and I remember reading this thing one time. I don't really follow Bashar, but I remember hearing this one thing that he said on the two occasions where they actually did, this was years ago, when they actually did say, okay, the people ran screaming. It was it was way too much. It was way too intense. And it's kind of like that. We monitor the level of resistance, to make sure we don't fry circuits, to make sure we don't connect things prematurely. Because as keen as people are for awakening, I mean, so you've still got sections of the population that are scheduled to awaken. They want to, but they're really not there yet. You can't premature awakening. Somebody asked me the other day, and actually it's one of those questions I get a lot. How do you get your Kundalini to rise? You know, I've heard about Kundalini rising, and I want mine to rise. How do you do it? How do you get it? I want to do it. I've been doing all these things to try and get it to rise. First of all, please don't try to get it to rise. It will rise naturally with your spiritual maturity. In the cases where things are it rises or awakens, like premature awakening, that is the same as like prepubescent sex. Something happens, or it's a terrible idea. It's premature. Kundalini awakening, full Kundalini awakening, when the energy goes all the way up the spine, it's designed to be a sequential clearing. And sequential information that needs to be digested and assimilated in a sequence. So you don't just jump to the end. You don't get any prize. Or well, you do get a prize for, actually, you really do. But it needs to be earned, and it really should not happen too fast. There's a spiritual adolescence that needs to be respected, and a process of maturation. So there are certain groups that are able to connect with certain other groups, and this is one. And also, everyone is placed in a considered way wherever you are on the globe. If you need to move, you'll be moved. Right now, it's important that everyone really appreciate. You may be very uncomfortable where you are. I know that I've been here for a long time, and I share that discomfort. I also share the appreciation that there's a reason I'm here in Kingston. There's a reason I'm still in this apartment. There's a certain job. The job that I'm doing here is huge. So it requires, it's working. When it's time for me to actually leave, I will. And I really am impatient for it. Like, I really am. Wherever you are, you might want to pay attention to the recognize that you are positioned where you are, whether you're one of the mobile people, the migrating group, was we have a lot of those migrating light workers, and their job is to take their energetic signature, which they radiate, and they're traveling around making adjustments. So that's a job that I've done for a long time too. You bring your energetic signature wherever you go to make adjustments, and you're in service. Sometimes we take on energy of our environment to run it through our body. So it's interesting because healing protocols change when you move from the third dimensional model of the way we've been taught. For example, one of the rules in the I wish I had a different word. In the previous paradigm, there were a lot of rigid rules rigid operating rules. And many of us were told, don't take it upon yourself. You know, if you're healing someone, don't take on that person's stuff. But in a higher level, we do this all the time. We operate this way all the time. It's extremely common. and very, very effective. And one of the reasons it works differently, we're able to do that in higher dimensions because we function in a rotating network where it's very much a filtration system. So we're not doing it alone. We're part of a gigantic network of, it's a lot like a, what? I want to say like an activated placenta. There's a filtration system where if you've got a humongous array of trained healers and ascended masters and angelics and you name it, all sorts of beings from all over. And they're extremely eager to contribute. There's almost a compulsive contribution. The propulsion system of the new network, the new economy, the new ecology, the new earth altogether comes from the love of service, the love of giving. It's an automatic. If you see a space, you fill it. You offer. I should say it. You offer. You don't insist. I will give this to you. You will accept this. That's not it. You offer. Automatically, there's almost a compulsion to contribute. And that's anything that you feel inspired, you take inspired action because there's an awareness at that level that all is one. The other person is you. So wherever there's also, everyone is functioning in empathy. And because you feel that person's hunger, because there's no more, we don't have the same level of individuation and the experience of separation. And because of that, if I see somebody hungry and I feel hungry too, that happens. You feed the hungry one. You say, what would you like? What can I get you? And you feel the joy. The joy is shared. The satisfaction in eating, the experience is shared. The senses are shared. And that's one of the reasons why sex is much better. It's also one of the reasons why a lot of planets, I should say, you can partake or not, but the experience, the physical senses are all heightened. So if you have, there's a way that it can be done without it being creepy too, because you don't try to infringe. You can either have the experience be private, or you can have the experience be multiplied. And you can simply partake of that energy should you choose or not. I was going to talk about the properties of water. I'm going to do this again. Let me see. I'm going to take I should also say that when I'm doing these live streams, underneath the table, I have there's an effort to keep myself grounded and keep the energy constantly being purified as I speak, and it's 616 as I say this. As the energy of the viewers is picked up by me, it's run through my body, and I have both my feet in a basin of salt water for clearing purposes. I often do that on calls and on sessions too. Sometimes you want it clear, but and then I'm going to go, I will bless it, and then I'll pour it in the tub after. Salt has the properties of clarifying, clearing, and it absorbs negativity. So in a certain respect, it is protective. And that's why there's so much of it on Earth. I play a lot. Our energy fields are so you can play with the properties of water in terms of substances too. One of the things I do is I make adjustments to the salt or sugar content of the water that I'm either drinking, or and it can be minute. You can set that intention. I do a lot of work with salt water. I do a lot of work also with sugar water, particularly urine. The properties of salt will absorb and it will clear, and to a degree it will separate that way. You can also use it to combine, but it just has the properties of clearing and making something more distinct, because it's a certain kind of clarity that comes when you use salt in water. Like it will absorb the negativity. I'm not saying that salt is negative, but like, for example, a salt lamp, if you have a salt lamp on, I have one behind me, and that will send negative ions into the air if you leave it on all the time. The properties of honey specifically, all sugar, but specifically honey too, it's sticky. So if you want something that's going to provide a connection, greater connectivity, water altogether will provide greater connectivity. But if you want to adjust it further, you can play around with the properties of the water and add honey, add sugar. It will add lightness. It will also connect you to honeybees because it's sticky. So you just have to think about what is the thing that I'm adding to the soup or adding to yourself. You will discover as you move into these groups. So whether it's Bilal's groups or any one of these groups, they all have their own energetic signature as like en masse. Like Solji has a super high, super strong, energetic. What do you call it? It's just an energetic signature that's phenomenal. That group is just wonderful because of the work that they do. All of the people that pass through it. When I hang on a minute. There are specific adjustments being made. That's why I'm silent. Oh, I was going to talk about, I'm being rerouted. Just a minute. I was going to talk about the clearing that I did to give you an idea of some of the earth grid circuitry work that's being done. There are specific stories that I want to tell you that happened relatively recently. We're working on connecting the physical grids that are like some grids you know about, like the ley line grids in the earth, and there are also other energetic portals. There are also tributaries of water, and the oceans, all of the whole network of water on Earth, and also mycelium, the roots, and all the plants, and all of those actually really do function as a grid, and the humans are another grid, a mobile grid. And as part and parcel of that, as you walk through, or as you exist on Earth, especially the place that you reside, you become a steward of it. And you're a conduit, a living conduit for both clearing and also bringing in other energies. So the work that we do, I know sometimes I sway when this happens. You can tell the energy's running because certain things are being connected right now. I know that since I'm kind of at the helm of my main 3 groups, Queen's Chambers, or Queen's Chamber, the Ascension Arc, and All Creation, as I link with Bilal, those groups are going to link with his groups. They're going to be up-leveled, upgraded, but all of them, because we're bringing in an additional chunk of energetic current. So it basically, the rule is like meets like. So if he's got a group and I've got a group, we're working with energetic bandwidth, matching energetic bandwidth. So it's not necessarily the number of individuals, because certain individuals carry a much stronger energetic signature, or I should say a much stronger energetic conduit. Like I have an enormous bandwidth. So you can't, there's an algebra to all of it that is carefully watched. That's why certain people, if you dramatically up level, certain people will leave your oh, it's 111. Thank you. They will kind of go out of your bandwidth, or they will go out of your circle, and suddenly you either can't see them anymore, or they will drift out of your life, sometimes very abruptly when we suddenly up level. But new ones come in almost immediately. The process of synchronicity has the new thing hovering right there. So that as soon as something drops out, the new thing just slips right in. We have been working in the past. Granted, there has been a massive time delay. And all of us who do this work, we know, we recognize the time delay. Yes. There has been a huge time delay, a time gap. And the thing that we've been working on has been to bridge the gaps so that we maintain the continuum. That doesn't mean we're trying to make something solid. That means we're trying to make a network with no gigantic holes so that everyone can get where they need to go. Because some move forward with, some need, I know I said this the last time, some need something tangible before they move forward, but others, sometimes something tangible is the commodity that you need. And sometimes what you need is space, or you need a doorway, or something else, whatever it is. Sometimes it's information that you need. Sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's money. And we're just trying to get everything where it needs to go, and all of the people. I wanted to talk a bit about the synchronicities. Oh, so I should say that Broder and I tried to connect last night, and it was very funny because I was able to see him for about 2 seconds. It was literally about 2 seconds. I didn't. Neither one of us spoke. You know how sometimes you're trying to connect, and we had missed call. And then I got him on, I suddenly saw him, and I thought, oh, great. And then he vanished again, and then we couldn't connect. So we're going to try again tomorrow. But it's interesting. It was enough. And also I noticed that it was for about 2 seconds, and he was red. It was a fairly dark screen, but I did see him. And there was a red light on him. So that's all information that's important. I was going to talk about something that happened. Where's my bell, just in case I need it? I was going to talk about something that happened the other day. And also, I got permission to use people's names in case. If you work with me, sometimes I mention you. But the first person, I forget what his name is. I would have to look it up. It wasn't somebody who's booked a session with me. Sometimes, somebody messaged me the other day. It was on Yom Kippur. So it's the Jewish Day of Atonement, at-one-ment, and forgiveness. And this was, I love this story. It was a man who messaged me, and I can't remember his name, but it was somebody that wasn't a friend of mine on Facebook. It was somebody, I have a public page, and somebody just found me, and he sent me a very, very long text message. And we've been working. When I say we, I mean everyone in Queen's Chambers and a lot of specialty assistants. We've been working with the with Tomer Jindik, who's in Israel, and doing a phenomenal job working on behalf of clearing the masculine collective in that location. I mean, globally, but also in that location. He's in the heart of Israel, clearing for the masculine collective. So there's a lot of war. There's a lot of strife. It's very difficult. He's doing a phenomenal job, and we've been assisting for a long time. There's a group of us who we work with him almost daily. He's had many sessions with me. He's had sessions with other people. We do group calls, and we're trying to facilitate. And he knows what's up. So most of the stuff he's clearing is not even for him. It's not even his. It's not even in his own personal ancestry necessarily. It's on behalf of this group. And this is the work that a lot of us do. We're working on behalf of certain groups. And we take on that energy. And then a bunch of us kind of gather around and we facilitate we assist with the clearing. But the other day, I got a message from a man that I'd never heard of before, and he's basically one of the people who has been asleep, and he's just beginning to be jolted awake. And so he sent me he sent me exactly what someone in that situation would do. So I'm not, there is no judgment coming from me at all when I talk about the things that he's going through. This is just the process that we've all been through. It's really nice to see. Sometimes there can be a little bit of, not really frustration, but it's a little bit like dealing sometimes. I don't mean this in a condescending way at all, but they're just early in their process. So sometimes, and I would ask you, if you're stepping into facilitating groups, if you're someone who has not done private sessions, or you have healing modalities, but you haven't done, if you're stepping into service in a bigger way, or if you're just beginning to facilitate the ones who are newly awakening, who are going to be the next leaders of the ones in where, they're often, like the man of the family. I've got another person actually that he's the first one to awaken in his family. It's new to him, but all of the people around him are still asleep. He's a joy to work with. Bruce O'Farrell, he's a joy to work with. He asks all the right questions. He doesn't know the answers yet. Sometimes it can be, sometimes you forget what they don't know because it's been like so long. This isn't something that Bruce O'Farrell asked me, but this is something somebody else asked me, like 9 years ago. It had been, even then, it had been so long since I had talked to somebody who didn't know what I knew, that I didn't realize they didn't know that. And I had made some sort of offhand reference to, that's why you chose them as parents. Or this is when we choose our parents. And he had said, he looked at me like I was like, it was such a double take, like for both of us. And he said, what do you mean? How can we choose our parents? And I went, gung, like, oh, whoa, you don't know that. It's almost like, oh, it's that low. Like you're that unawake. I had no idea that I was talking. I thought that you knew, and you don't know that. Okay, like, whoa, reroute. You're way back here if you don't even know about pre-existence. I'm not trying to be snotty about it. It's just a certain level of knowledge that I thought you had. It's kind of like running into somebody in this day and age that does not know how to turn on the computer or can't read. It's kind of surprising. So you don't have to kick them in the shins, or just, okay, we just need to know what we're dealing with, and then we can work. Yeah. I want to make it clear that people, when they just first start awakening. So recently I have been gifted with 2 individuals from basically the same group who are having different experiences of their new awakening. One is Bruce O'Farrell, who's an old acquaintance of mine, but I haven't spoken to him in 30 years until recently. And now he's sending me questions and they're the best questions. He's a joy to work with. He's very, very eager for the information. And he's going into hypnotherapy. He's started, but his family has no interest. So it's a fractal system, and we also have to know that we're assisting people that are it's all a fractal system. So every adjustment that you make, or as you heal one, you're healing for the whole group. Everyone who has that. You can also amplify your own intention as a healer, that do it on behalf, that whatever adjustment, that's really a way to assist with the clearing and the connection and the clearing of the grids. That was 5. That's the change. And then I want to initiate this change, establish this as the change for the group, that everyone who's hearing my voice, we're going to, if you are stepping into a position of clearing or assisting others or doing private sessions, or if you have a healing modality and you're going to start working with, or maybe you have been working already, we're going to up level the level of service, where now it's going to be done on behalf of your client and the group. You don't have to, but I'm just offering that as an alternative. And if the energy gets too intense, you can send me the excess, and I will help you balance it. We kind of take the edge off, because everybody's system is different. And we want everyone to work up to their appropriate capacity without getting overwhelmed. So that was Bruce. But then there was this other guy, also newly awakened. And very often, I just offer this for your consideration. I've noticed it more with the men than the women, but women do it too. I ask you, please stay out of judgment or hypercriticism of, very often when there seems to be a certain how do I want to say this? There's a certain group, more so with men, but it's also masculine energy, that when they awaken, when they come online, the energy that they come online with is a little explosive. Like, the first thing you want them to do is step into their power, because the correction So usually people tend toward being over dominant, over served, or like there's a very blasty, over aggressive quality to it, or you've got the other side, which is very tentative, and they tend to retreat, and they tend to be very shy. And those are the ones you can't get their light to come out. You have to really cultivate, come on, kids. Don't hide what you got. You're going to run into both. I do ask that in some ways the shy ones, that's their own problem. Sometimes that's it's another problem altogether, getting them to come out. Or that's totally the wrong way to say that. Encouraging them. It's a different approach. But what I've noticed is that there's the ones that come online in a very blasty way. I urge you not to shut that down. I have heard from a number of people. Actually, David Wilcock was one of them a long time ago. I heard when people suddenly remember who they are, if they are part of an aspect of a larger party, or if they suddenly think they're Christ, for example. Let's not shut that down. It is so difficult to get people to take their power, that when they first awaken, and they sometimes from a position of it can come across as a little volcanic, depending on who they are. The other day, I was there's a little bit of an overcorrection. I think that that's actually appropriate if you've got someone who has been very repressed, or they've been confined, or they've been simply oblivious. So a lot of people have been really oblivious, and suddenly these things they're waking up, and it's a bit of a shock, has a shocky quality to it. And also sometimes, if you've ever tried to, if you've ever been in a place of fear, I remember myself in high school where I was scared to say no to my mother, but I also knew it had to be done. So sometimes I would have to put a boundary, or whatever. I would have to confront someone, but I was also scared to do it. So there was like inner conflict. Any place you've got inner conflict going on. I remember myself in high school where I would be like, I would like have to go in or shout like, no, and like run away. There's a little bit of an overcorrection at the onset until you balance yourself, and until you simply stabilize. Just allow it, and try not to get too judgy when someone says, like this man did with me the other day. It was like, he was a total stranger, and around 6 o'clock in the morning, I got this column. So I'm really not judging, because God knows I've written long posts and lengthy emails, and it's just the nature of the energy as it passes through. That's the only thing it can do. So let's just allow it to run, have it run its course. I'm actually really, really, really privileged that this man, he said, I feel I can trust you. I feel like I found out that I'm God. I suddenly remembered that I'm God, and I'm trapped here in this body, and I don't even know how I got here. But I know that I have to save the world right now. It's really, really important. And he wrote me this long column of text, and he said, I feel I can trust you. And so I was, sometimes I don't answer a lot of the messages from total strangers. Sometimes I do. I really vibe it out to see, I pay attention to synchronicity, and there are a lot of factors that go into whether so I've just got a tremendous amount of work, which I love, and I'm not trying to shut it off. I really appreciate it. But, I have had some times where I wake up to, 150 messages, and a lot of I really do want to answer all of them. I really do. Delegation is some of the hardest work I do because so many people are so earnest. It's not just the basket cases or the trauma or the the urgent appeal from someone who's really in desperate circumstances. They all deserve the help, appropriate help. I'm not saying, be an enabler and if somebody's chronically, but there are a lot of people where you can tell when I just have a really strong desire to make sure that that no one goes unheard, that it's all answered. I really, really feel that. And I really do try to get back to everyone. I tend to I answer certain ones based on, I can't even say what it's based on. It's based on the way the energy is flowing. And sometimes I can look at somebody's name, or I can read their message, and I know that they're like, I can send angels, I can send other people. I will very often connect you with another healer. If you write to me, I can connect you, or I can call on appropriate assistance. I don't always respond to every message with a text message because there's simply it's an onslaught. But that doesn't mean you're not loved or cared for. That means we're getting to everybody. And if there are some that are mine to do, and then there are some that, like in Queen's Chamber, it goes out to 4 directions. So it goes, there's a circulation system that's a little bit, honestly, it's a little bit like a Christmas tree. It flows out, and we're just making sure that everyone gets fed. Everyone gets nourished, and no appeal goes ignored. No one is ignored. That's important. Nonetheless, there's a mechanism by which we're connecting everyone to make sure that there's less of a time delay. But the other day, this man wrote to me. I can't remember where he was. It's nothing alike. I want to say it's like Minnesota or Wisconsin or something, but it was somewhat early in the morning, and suddenly there's a column, and like an urgent has a feeling to it, and he said, I'm God. I just suddenly remembered I'm God, and this is really important. We have to heal the earth right now, and it was really lovely. It was lovely. I appreciate that kind of sudden awakening because it is important, and he is God. And I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not going to say, well, no, don't tell him he's not. I said, thank you for recognizing that you are. Thank you, brother, for taking your power. Thank you for wanting to contribute. I really appreciate it. So he told me that his car had run out of gas, and he was basically stranded someplace. He had nothing, no people. He had nobody he could turn to for help. He was in a certain amount of severe pain. He had a molar that was abscessed. His tooth was abscessed and cracked. So also this was on Yom Kippur. And I talked to him for a while. We went back and forth, and he told me that his car was out of gas. And I thought, well, there's no coincidence there. Where are you? And is there a body of water near you? Because there has to be. And if there wasn't, we would, I'd have him stand there, whatever. We're going to work with, you're there for a reason. So there's got to be something there that is assisting. You're there for a reason. But as it turns out, there was some running water. There was a little river right by him where his car just happened to totally stop. And I said, do you have any salt? We're gonna do this. He said he had happened to have, of course, nothing's a coincidence. He happened to have Himalayan pink salt with truffle oil that had been in his groceries, and it had, I don't know, rolled out somehow. This thing got left in his car. So the only thing he's got in his truck is a thing of Himalayan pink salt, of all things, which is the energy. Salt is clearing, but it also carries the energy of self-love. And it was pink Himalayan salt with truffles, like little, like truffle oil. And mushrooms talk to mushrooms. Fungus talks to fungus. It's all, it had black truffle oil in it. So what a perfect thing to have. That's all you need. So I said, okay, now I know what we're doing on Yom Kippur. So I asked him, I talked with him for a while. And I said, okay, I would like you to, we're going to do this together. I'm going to be here right with you. And this is directly related to energetic circuitry. So there's a reason that, I'm telling you, none of this shit is random. So you can start to pay attention to all of your own circumstances, your actions, everything that's in your environment. There's nothing that's not animate, there's nothing that's not conscious, there's nothing that isn't given to you to use for the properties that it has. You're never left alone. Sometimes you're asked to rely on yourself to draw upon the resources that you have, to learn how that works. I asked him to take off his shoes and go down and stand in the water, take the salt. And then I said, this is what we're going to do. As we're going to, so we were talking about, there was a period of, I don't know, a little couple of paragraphs of, can you heal my toothache? And I said, well, you're God, so you can heal your toothache, but I will walk with you through it. And we're going to do this together right now. It's exciting because I know what that represents. An abscessed tooth. A tooth is a solid support structure designed for providing nourishment, but depending on where it lands, all teeth represent something hard. So very often, every tooth represents something different. So an abscessed tooth is built up, pent up resentment. It's an infection. Something's inflamed. Anything that's inflamed is anger. His tooth had cracked, which means the support structure is inflamed and pissed off. It was the Day of Atonement. It was on Yom Kippur. So I thought, great, now I know exactly what we're doing. Fantastic. I'm so glad you called me. Of all people, I wanted to work with a embodied masculine someplace in the United States. I don't remember where it was. But I know better than to think it's random. Nothing's random. He ran out of gas. So there's a point of depletion where you're asked to reach out and rely on someone else. So it's also, if he's often, we know from working with Tomer is wonderful, and he takes, he's very collaborative with women. There's not a lot of bristling. He listens really well, but we ask him often, what does the masculine collective, we ask him all sorts of questions, and he's wonderfully descriptive. He's very attuned to, like, this is what they're thinking, this is what they're feeling. And they often want to do something themselves, and they are resistant to collaborating with women, sometimes as peers. So I was very appreciative of the opportunity that this man with the toothache was taking a certain amount of direction for me. And I said, great, let's go do this. So you can heal your tooth, but we're going to work with the energy of the water, the energy of Mother Earth. And if you are God, which now you have owned, thank you for that. Let's take the salt down to the river. And he went, and I said, just, tell me when you're standing in there. And I said, we're going to, in your left hand, put the pink Himalayan salt in your left hand with truffle oil. And without any haste whatsoever, I want you to connect, fully appreciate the salt, fully appreciate what we're doing, fully appreciate the fact that God has given you everything that you need to heal this right now. And we're going to bring forward a massive healing on behalf of not just you, but hardened belief systems, ruptured relationships, any place that there's anger. We're going to do it on behalf of the masculine and the feminine globally. And then I want you to put, fill your palm up with sand. Also, don't be stingy. So if it was something like if you used cheap salt, or if you got the cheapest salt you could get because you're only going to wash it in the river, then it would be of less value. The fact that this is kind of a gourmet, valuable food product, you have to actually offer something of value to you. So I had him pour that in his left hand. And I said, I would like you to, with reverence, you have to really generate, wait, don't do it callously. It's not something that you're going to toss in the river. There, go take that. You're going to do it with real reverence. When you feel that fully in your heart, I want you to bless the salt and imprint it with your own personal energetic signature. And you're going to give before you ask for the healing. You're going to ask for the healing too. You're already in the water. It's already being done. But let's stand barefoot in the river, and then put the salt just underneath the surface of the water and hold it there as you bless the healing. We're going to bring forth this healing, and allow the salt to gradually dissolve. And as the salt dissolves, your toothache is going to go away, and you're going to do it. You're going to bring that healing on behalf of all the inflamed, anything that is similarly inflamed, similarly impacted belief systems. Anywhere there's that anything is cracked, any structure is cracked, we're just going to bring peace to the kingdom, and we're going to do it for the globe. Or we're going to do it for masculine and feminine, and also for the masculine collective or humankind. It's going to be a gift to Mother Earth. And then you're going to say, I'm bringing an offering of forgiveness. Forgiveness. Please take this pain away. It is my desire to be of service. And so he did that. So what I love, the reason I'm telling you this story, is not just that. It's the priceless synchronicity that I will never forget. So this man goes down to the river, and he's going to do this thing with salt. And when he gets in the river, I said, tell me when you're standing in the river. He's standing in the river holding salt in his left hand. And all of a sudden, so I'm talking to him on the computer, and I see that a little, I look over at my phone, and suddenly right then, I get a message from Tomer who says, I am standing in the ocean in Tel Aviv. So he's in salt water in Tel Aviv. This was not planned. This was telepathy. That the natural telepathic network is aligning with the water network, with the earth grids. All of this stuff is coming online. And that the confirmation is the synchronicity. So then I had both of them. I had Tomer in Tel Aviv. And what I love is that specifically, so listen to where it was Tel Aviv. And usually he's in Israel, but he went to Tel Aviv for a holiday. And he also said there was an army of brown ants on the stove. He talked to me while he was there. But Tel Aviv, so that there's going to be a hint. Pay attention if you want to know what's going on. Start to pay attention to all of the components, the components of your name, the components of the town that you're in. Tel Aviv. Aviv is viva, it's life. So tell life. What we're doing is we're connecting through the telepathic network. We're connecting all of these living systems. The abundance network is partly monetary and it's financial and tangible, and it's more the we pay a lot of attention to the money system, but there's also natural abundance. You could have an abundance of information. Sometimes people are like, it's abundance of all things. Anything you put in the river is going to come back to you in the desert. And one important thing, because at some point I'm going to wind up talking about the financial system and merging that with the natural abundance system, which is what we're doing. So I work with a lot of people who are specializing in working with the financial system. Like Rick Jewers is focused on, has been spending a lot of time focusing on the financial network, the global people's monetary system. And that's largely tangible. It's largely tangible. But what I want to make clear is that it's still somewhat male dominated. It's focused on the tangible as being, it's also kind of like obvious, the tangible, tangible money. But the intangible, you really have to know deep within and extend that outward, that the intangible is the feminine. The space is the feminine, which is equal to the tangible and the masculine. So you don't necessarily need to accumulate autographs or accumulate people's names, which is a very singular driven, we have to get more of this one thing and it has to be a name that takes place in a certain strata. But equal to that is the intangible, which already exists, and we're already connecting it. And you may not need all of those signatures. You may want them, but there is also another way to get them. You already have the support of the intangible, the telepathic network, all of life. And I can sign, if I sign, as I have, the global people's monetary system, I can do that on behalf of those who either can't or won't. I won't do it on, there's a lot of people didn't want to sign that. And I spoke to a lot of them. I spoke to a lot of women who don't want to sign it for very good reasons. So I'm not going to insist that they do that because I want their cooperation. I'm going to, I'm not going to step into the control of getting them to do something that they don't want to do. But I will connect with them a different way that affords them freedom to do what they prefer and not control them at all, but still partake of the energetic support, because we don't need the tangible proof. All the changes are already taking place. They're already happening, and it's already done. As long as you can tap into that, you don't have to. You don't even have to vote in the at all in any sort of formalized government system. You can just simply partake of your energetic vote is enough. And I think that's one of these things that we have to that we have to realize is that Stop chasing the correction in the, stop chasing the dumb ones. The systems that don't work. They work. They also work when we get there. They, there's a way that we're kind of, I don't want to even really get into it right now. It's a different conversation, but there's a way that the blocky control systems, there's a way that we are carefully applying countermeasures, infiltrating with specific people. It's basically, it's not happening in a way that's very obvious to like take down, like I should change that language. I almost said take down the insurance industry, because we're not going to wind up needing insurance. There are a lot of dominant systems that are part of the old belief systems that are just gonna fall as soon as the higher network simply lands, because there's simply a better way to do it, and it's going to flip so fast once these things touch. But we cannot do it prematurely because of there's still a level, there's still a population, and I know that so many of us are so bloody impatient for it. It's understandable because we've been waiting for a really long time. It's not like I'm not aware of the urgency or that the fact that it has taken a bloody long time. I'm very well aware of that. And I share the frustration. But I also understand what's involved, or I understand why we can't force certain things to happen prematurely, because we monitor the level of, we monitor the fear level. And also I would say that when you step up into, so for those of you who are coming online and are in your grid positions and are connecting, you know, I do a lot of connecting circuitry. We pair people, or we position people carefully for reasons, for real good reasons. You want a leader of each group to be able to accommodate certain flinches. For example, if you're, makes me think, yeah, I used to have horses. One of my horses was a driving horse. The last thing you ever want to do is, or like have you ever seen something like a tipped wagon when there's like too much weight on one side? You do not want that to happen. Or like a sled. If you're responsible for carrying the energetic weight, or as a counterbalance of like a large group, like say I've got, let's say I have a certain bandwidth and I'm capable of being the leader of a large group. And what that means is you're capable of standing against, that might be the wrong word, but let's just use it temporarily. You're capable of standing up. Okay, I'll say that. You're capable of standing up to, let's say, for the sake of argument, 50 people. You know, a lot of people won't do that. A lot of people will defer to the popular opinion. You have to take everyone's opinion into account, but not be a people pleaser, so that you won't be bowled over. If everyone wants to do something that you genuinely believe is wrong, you have the capacity to say no also. It's not just about, you know, politicians really, they started chasing votes or chasing popular opinion. Yes, they do, you know, if you're in a democracy or something, they do represent the people, but they also have to have the opposite skill set, which is the ability to really uphold their own conviction just in case. You know, what if there's a mob mentality and everyone goes haywire and everyone wants you to do something that you truly believe is wrong? It requires of a leader someone who says, no matter what you do, I'm not going to do that. You might tell me, you know, we elected you. If you tell me that that you've decided as a group that, you want this species to go extinct. No, my answer is no, let's say. You have to have the ability as the leader of a group or the steward of a group to hold your own conviction. So there are certain leaders who have been put in place with deliberation and care. And largely it's by agreement, because you also really want to preserve free choice. There's been a very, very long process of a careful process, a careful migration of various groups in order to preserve free choice, because that's sacred. You allow people to do what they want to do, and you give a humongous smorgasbord of choices so that we can see what each person authentically prefers, so that we don't pressure them unnecessarily. And then they go off in the direction of their choosing. And then we let them have whatever they want. And then we're going to have appropriate division. So if, for example, we're not going to have bloodshed on this planet anymore. When the new Earth system is fully operational, so many things are going to be changing. And many things will simply not exist anymore. But there are beings in the universe who prefer things. They have a taste for violence. They have a taste for fear. And one of the rules is you do not have the right to tell someone that they may not exist, or to tell another species that they may not exist. Because if we enforced that, they could do the same thing to us. And it is our I was on the Council of Balance, which is something I'll talk about some other time. But the Council of Balance existed for a period of time, starting with the Joan of Arc lifetime. And the purpose of that was to watch the Joan of Arc template and which was a program or a template designed to run to separate the wheat from the chaff, and it was designed to run for a certain amount of time in order to make sure the planet didn't explode, in order to maintain the balance of dark and light on Earth, and it was operated in full transparency and full cooperation with 6 beings of light and 6 beings of dark, and everything was telepathic and happened in the in the 12th dimension. It's very much it's like playing 5D chess. It is playing 5D chess, but there was full cooperation, and everything was basically agreed on. That you're allowed to do this. That we know that there's a certain length of time that there's going to be an overlap between real negativity, and I'm not saying all shadow is negative either, because you're always going to have shadow and light. That's purposeful. But certain elements were still that were really dark and really evil. We need to get that shit out of the soup. And then there was a process of filtering out the really non-cooperative ones, a little bit like the dinosaurs. Like certain things are removed, but it's a hard thing to do. It's like removing the ingredients from soup. You're trying to deconstruct soup, and that's a lot harder than putting it together to begin with. So anyway, where was I going with this? I was also going to talk about excuse me, let me do this. Okay, I'm going to put that toward integration. Flow, balance. Pay attention. Oh, you know what? I'm going to, before I start my next thing, how long have we been on? Okay, I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to run to the bathroom really quick. And I don't know what I'm going to say yet. I've got signs. By the way, I suggest you do this. In front of the wall, in front of the toilet in my house, I've got, I have signs up to remind every person who uses the toilet, say, I now let go of everything that doesn't support life. I now let go of, I now let go of all resistance, all blockages, anything that does not support the highest possible timeline for Earth. I'm going to go with that. Okay, I'll be right back. Luke is hungry. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. Actually, my dog has to pee too, so 1 second. Right there. Here, look. Nothing's random. We're often synchronous lately. Interestingly enough, a couple of years ago, I had maybe a year ago, something. I had one of the many life reviews that I've had. You know, when you first die, for those of you who've had near-death experiences or have died or whatever, you know, when you first die, you have a life review shortly after that. It's also possible to have a lot of people do, to have death experiences or life reviews. I've done it. I've had 3 in this life, where my last life review takes place with there was a number of close, like this, like they surround you, and you're very much held in the company of spirit guides who are very close to you, and they know everything about you. And the last one I had, so it's a process of refinement, and I was in the shower, and it took place over a period of, I don't know, maybe a full day. I had the last life review, and it was just a refinement to see how I was doing, because I do have a fairly significant job, and that's not to be hierarchical at all. There are a lot of us here. But I was doing a lot of work, and it was time for another life review, and I was in the shower, and there were Oh, I don't know. I would hesitate to put a number on it, but probably 8, 8 or 10 peers. These are your peer souls, and they were all surrounding me, and I was in the shower receiving downloads. Which a lot of downloads will happen in now. You'll probably notice this. You'll get more downloads in the shower, and you can also utilize the energy as it's coming off your body. That's all picking up your information. It's being put in the water system. So that's directly affects the speed with which you will get downloads. As soon as you're ready, there's no time delay whatsoever. As soon as you're ready to receive another download, they don't care what you're doing, if you're driving or whatever. You'll get a download when it's ready, when the resistance is out of the way, and all of the water, if you're in the shower, as it goes over your body, it's picking up your energetic signature too. But the last time I had a life review, I was doing pretty well. Like usually during a life review, you'll see the things that you could have done better. You will experience what you made other people feel. If there was something that, like karmically, things that anything that you could have done better. It was basic. The last life review I had was basically like a review for since we last saw you. We're just going to do another clearing now, and it was very interesting to me that. In life reviews, sometimes they'll bring in witnesses or examples. You will be shown examples of things you could have done better. And they brought in, this is the first time I can remember this happening, but they brought in my dogs, Luke and Tosh, who testified. They were asked, the dogs were asked by my spirit team, if there was anything that they would like to say. And I think it was Luke, it could have been Tosh, but I think it was Luke who said that I was impatient when that was their complaint. They said, because they're here, they are my living support team, my dogs, all my animals, but they see everything that goes on. There's sometimes a tendency for human beings to think that, we act most authentic, we act naturally when there's no other human around, but we'll act naturally in front of our animals. And sometimes sometimes there is a misunderstanding or a misbelief on behalf of human beings that nobody's watching, nobody's around. But that's not true, ever. And I already knew that, but my dogs came into my life review, and my dogs actually testified. I wouldn't say it was against me, because it was all supportive. But my dog said, Luke said, she pulls on the leash. She's impatient when I let him out, that sometimes when it was raining or something, I pulled on the leash and I tried to get him to go in faster, because I was, and he didn't have time to read the newspaper. He needs his information too. And that was his complaint, that I have access to all of the data I need, but I was cutting his time short, and he needed to smell the grass to know what was going on. And I took the correction. He's correct. And I did. So I'm much more careful about that now. So I apologized after I came out of the shower. I apologized to both my dogs, and I said I recognized that I was being a little, a little imperialist, or a little asserting my own agenda over theirs, not treating them as equals. So it's important to communicate. And even though it's like they talk to me too, but in the life review, that's what came in. And more and more things like that are going to happen. What was the other thing? I do have all of this information. Oh, so as you step into connecting further, the more people, sometimes, so there's a departure from the way that we have been singularly connected. Certain things are changing, and they're changing rapidly. For example, we tend to think that that our thoughts are our own. That's not always true. That's one of the main shocks, or there's a reason that in certain strata you find paranoia right at this at the transition between it's like low level fourth dimension. That's where you get a certain looping pattern that also serves a purpose, even though a lot of us complain about it. The looping pattern is extremely important. This is where you kind of wipe your feet vibrationally, because as we go higher, the manifestation time, we're not going to have the luxury of the time delay of karma. We're going to have, we're moving into instant manifestation of thoughts. So that could really be totally catastrophic if your thoughts are uncontrolled, or if there's a misperception in the third dimensional paradigm that we've been conditioned to operate this under the assumption that nobody can hear us thinking, and that's not true either. I've had this experience where I remember walking through a diner, and I was walking through a diner one time, and I was just, you know how, because you can't always turn it off. Some people can turn it off. I can't. I have no idea how do they do that. I also think it wouldn't necessarily serve me. I think if I needed that skill, I would have it. But like, I don't know how to turn off my sense of smell either. And that might be a nice thing to be able to do, to just be able to turn it off. And I can't. But I walk through a diner in the same way sometimes you just pick up smells as you walk through a space, or you can hear snippets of conversation if you're in a crowded room. I remember walking through a crowded diner one time, and there were just like loose thought forms around people, and I was just kind of aware of picking up like mental chatter that wasn't mine. And some guy had left something I remember this. Some guy was waiting for the waitress. Some guy, he didn't like it. It didn't like his order. Somebody had left something in the car. Somebody was worried about their mother. Like, I remember this stuff just like it was like around here, right around here in their space. And as I walked through, I just kind of picked it up. Very often, your senses are going to start to expand more, and often there's going to be it's like a gigantic Venn diagram between you and the other people that you're connected to. So as this is why it relates to circuitry. As these groups come together, there's a lot of co-dreaming. There's a lot of visual imagery that gets because you've got telepathy, right? And that's it's all visual imagery and emotions. There's a lot of shared dreaming. If anyone is looking for dream support, on the Ascension Arc, there's a visual metaphor. There's the Ascension Arc visual metaphor group that's small, but it's got a lot of artists in it. So far, it's only women. But we're always talking about like dream interpretation, and a lot of people post their dreams on there. I also recommend Rebecca Jubert, Jubert. She's a dream oracle, and if you are interested in more information about that, you can contact me and I will connect you. If you're somebody who has a specialty, if you're interested in stepping up into service more, I'm not talking to people if you have like a service to provide for profit. That's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. If you're somebody who has the ability to step into service in a greater way pro bono for other healers specifically. So there's really something that we're doing regarding healing the healers. Every single group, this is one of the rules in the circuitry. There really are few rules, but there are, well, there kind of are. One of the things that's just true is that every single group must participate in its own liberation. The same way you don't save people, but you do offer the appropriate amount of assistance in order to have them rise to their own empowerment and do their own work. The work that we take off of the shoulders of, we can unburden someone who is carrying more than their fair share, or if is something that they genuinely cannot do alone, we have the ability to take that. We can't take certain things off of people if it's genuinely theirs to carry. And this isn't a matter of preference. It's not a matter of judgment. We're all here carrying something specific. So some things are adaptable and some burdens can be shared. Some burdens must be carried alone, but there's no such thing. So you will be given different kinds of support depending on what your, for example, if you're carrying a significant challenge and it is actually something that we cannot take off from you, we will surround you with love and care and support and counsel and other people doing something similar, so that one way or another, your burden will be lightened. You can do it incrementally. Sometimes we can extend the amount of time. There are all kinds of ways that we can assist. Where was I going with this? I was going to talk about senses coming online. So, the other day I was participating in a massive clearing that really surprised me. I wasn't expecting this. My hearing in my right ear, I've been deaf in this ear for 50 years. I lost my physical hearing in this ear when I was 2, when I had scarlet fever. And since that time, I've been about 90% deaf in this ear. And I used to have hearing aids, but I couldn't stand it because I'm also massively clairaudient, and I always have been. So I've got a real wonky, kind of lopsided, distorted perception. Like my ears are, I was Joan of Arc, and there's that whole clairaudient thing, but I've got a wonky history with sound and my sense of hearing. I also want to tell you that but I also know that my role now is to use this physical vessel as a surrogate. I work on behalf of the globe, and I run so I can tell, depending on what's going on in my own physical body, I can tell what's happening globally, which is a really weird thing to say. I've got psoriasis on my ankle, there's trouble in Istanbul, or whatever. That's like a weird thing to say, but it's also true. Whatever is true of my own physical body, there's something, depending on where I am and the state of the world. But now this is a pattern. Other people are doing this too. It's not just me. But I pay attention to where there is any issue with my physical body, because it's not just about me. It represents a group, and then by extension, it also represents the globe. So, and on that note, okay, I'm gonna refill my water. Hang on a second. So I have one group with 5 members, and two of the members, or twice, we've had a member leave the group, not through strife or anything. I still work closely with both those people that were in the group and that they left. And then that was purposeful because we're bridging. The group is 5, Queen's Chamber, and I'm kind of in the center, but just because somebody has to be, not because I'm any more important. My energy goes out in 4 directions according to elements, and then each element is carried or runs through. I've got Anna Reynolds. She's the water. She's in Poland. I've got Angel Baudoin, who's usually over there, and she represents the air element, and she's in Canada. I've got Sharon Martin, who's represents Earth, and she's in New Zealand. And I've got Joanna Cullum, who represents fire, and she's in Las Vegas. And then the ones that we're bridging, right? We're bridging. So we've got the contained group of 5 of us, and then we've got 2 that are outside purposefully. It's kind of like they went through the group and then left the group, one anchoring Earth, and that's Camille Ochoa. And she's also in Las Vegas, and her sister is Joanna. And so the 2 of them are in Las Vegas and with a biological lineage. And then Rebecca Joubert, who's in New York. And she's the Dream Oracle. So we've got this great system going on. But this is pretty funky because when somebody comes into the group, their skill set gets picked up by all of the other members, and we all suddenly have the ability to partake of those skills, which is glorious if you think about the network that we're building and the level of combined experience, the level of just the skills you bring to the table. These people bring to the table. It is sexy as hell, I tell you. When Rebecca came into the group, everybody's telepathy. She's really a gifted telepath. We were all telepathic to begin with. We were all sharing when we started the group. We noticed certain things and so this is the thing. We started the group, and it was a set of 5. And in the starting of the group, it taught me certain things taught us certain things about how to navigate the new network of groups. For one thing, there's a certain amount of privacy, but also not. You really have to be able to know what you want to keep private. There's also a lot of intimacy. It's a lot of intimate conversations. If you want something kept private, you have to develop the skill set where you close the door and you set an intention to, you could have sex and have that experience not be picked up automatically. Early on in the group, we had that, because we weren't expecting. We didn't know you had to shut the door. It's like there are just there are no boundaries. They don't operate the same way in a state of non-physical. There's not as much individuation or separation. There's a lot of overlap, and it took us a while to on a lot of group calls to figure out what was going on because. I was able to feel what was going on other places, like really feel like Joanna would eat something and I'd be like, oh, somebody's eating garlic, or Angel smokes. And I don't smoke. I can't stand. So I've never tried a cigarette in my life. And all of a sudden, I'm like, it took a while, to figure out. I thought at the beginning, I had to figure out where it was coming from. And so to a degree, I still do that if it's a problem. Like we had to figure out, it also works by extension. So there's that too. Sometimes people that we're connected to, if we have a strong connection with somebody, we just had to learn to dial the boundaries, because sometimes like it moves like water. So for example, one of the women in the group had was seeing a man for a while who was having a lot of sex at like 1 o'clock every day, and then didn't realize, like, sometimes you're not trying to pry, you're just figuring out like, where is this coming from? Please, like, get him to stop doing that one thing. It is really intrusive. It's, it's very insistent, and we would really like this we would like to be able to focus on what we want to focus on. Please get that door to shut. And then you're not trying to pry, but you just want to know what direction it's coming from so that we can make appropriate corrections, because we're learning through practice. And now it's been a while. I don't even know when when Queen's Chamber got started, but one of them will know. But it was really it was a learning experience to kind of learn how to navigate the energetics of a small, intimate group, which is tightly controlled. And you have to have a certain skill set to be there. We're there for a reason. Well, anyway, when Rebecca came in, Rebecca Joubert, we were already telepathic. We were already sharing a lot of physical senses. But when Rebecca came in, everyone's telepathy just went a lot higher. And when we add people to the group, we don't do it to the whole. We bring them in carefully. We often go off and work in pairs or in trios. We very often we work alone, but we also work in pairs. No job is shared. No job is held by a single person. That's really important. Every single task has a minimum of 2 people on it, so that no one works alone. There's always a backup. That's really important. In the new network altogether, it takes a little bit of adjusting. It's very nice though. I think I like it. Takes a lot of the burden of care off. And it also expands the amount that you can do. It's really nice. We're very connected to when you begin to share senses, and our dreams started to synchronize. So we do a lot of comparing notes, and now it's become very comfortable to work with each other. But a lot of the dreams started to synchronize. So you'll see song lines, or you'll see rivers of energy that have the same sounds, the same words, the same names, the same elements that go off in certain directions. There are certain elements in some rivers that are not in other rivers. There are so it's and every river is, or every song line is, it carries geography. It will go off in a certain direction. It carries elements or certain forms that tend to repeat. Certain names are in some rivers and not at all in other rivers. And I'm going to go, I'll talk about that a different time. But so at any rate, I've got, That's right. So here's one thing that I was going to tell you. This is really bloody funny. We were trying to figure it out. It's a little bit of trial and error. After a while, you all know the same. It's glorious. You all know largely the same. You have the same body of working knowledge, so that there's a lot less to explain, and it facilitates the communication is just so much faster, and it's so easier. About half of it is verbal, the way I'm talking now, and about half of it is telepathic, and a lot of it is past imagery. In earlier on, I don't even know when this happened. I'm so off the standard timeline, but I was gonna. We had an experience. Also, this we're incorporating animals more and more and more. So like witches have familiars because we're very in tune with nature, and we're going quantum and multi-species. So you're going to notice more interaction with plants and animals. It's really going to become second nature or first nature. We're going back into first nature to have a multiplicity of species. So it's not just about freeing the planet, freeing humanity. Not just about that. It's also about freeing all species, and all of the each group. They rise to their own. They assist with their own liberation of their group, themselves, their group, and also they collaborate in the whole. We had this wonderful experience. Rebecca and Anna Reynolds and I. My dog Luke was. So Anna's in Poland. I don't even know how this happened. Like I'm going to tell you my version of events, but if they have other pieces, I would be interested to hear them tell the same story. Maybe we'll have them on. But this was a fascinating and really kind of funny thing that happened. Lovely. And I don't know, I would say, I'm so bad with time, but I would say that probably less than a year ago, but maybe going on a year. I don't know. Regarding synchronous events, particularly with dreaming, because we work through the night, so there's no longer a harsh separation between night and day, where you're working during the day and you're sleeping at night. There is no rest. I mean, there is rest. We do take appropriate rest, but there's no sleeping. We work a different way when we're sleeping. In fact, we often get way more done, way more done when we're out of resistance. We get out of resistance when we go to sleep because we relax. It's like our whole energy field dilates. We leave our body. Usually there's a certain amount of astral travel, so we will leave our body, and then meetings can take place because you're outside of time. You're not trying to set appointments or align things in the 3D physical world. You can all meet in dream time and have these collaborative meetings, or there's just a lot of work that gets done. So we had this experience, and your animals are doing that too. There's no longer a harsh divide. There are hard divides between anything. Night and day starts to merge, and the sexes. You've got union between the sexes. Your masculine, your energy are masculine, feminine energies are integrated. So everything is becoming more and more integrated all together. But we had this experience where I was asleep. Rebecca also lives in New York, about 5 hours from me, and she was asleep. Anna Reynolds was the UK. I said she was in Poland. That's the second time I did that. She's in the UK. And my dog Luke was asleep, and he never does this. So start to notice things that don't normally happen where suddenly, oh, that's another thing I want to talk about. Wait, don't let me forget. Just one second. I want to make sure I get this on this. Because it's directly related to energetic circuitry. I want to make sure I say that. But I want to finish this story first, and then I'll tell you this other thing. Pay attention to things that kind of seem out of character, because sometimes energies will come through. It will move through it will move through us. It will move through our animals. Sometimes we're just, carrying energies as they pass through. We're just doing a lot of this work of processing on behalf of a lot of others. And some of the chapters are very short, something that you could have a kind of a migratory or transitory food preference, or there are all sorts of these adjustments that take place all over. And a lot of the circuitry work, as we're trying to connect certain things and detach, some things need gaps. We need gaps and spaces to be in certain locations so that energy can get through where you don't want something solid. And there are other places where we really need something that's tangible. And in the meantime, you've got a lot of these certain things are happening in the energy as it's being processed, and it's a semi-solid state between where it's just in transition. So sometimes you'll get manifestations of something. I don't know. It's like just something really weird will happen. That's, like finding a I don't know, like a rack of designer dresses that suddenly appears in a cornfield. Like, how the hell did this get here? It was probably just, there are all sorts of things that are really kind of bizarre. Like, how did this happen? What? You're going to start to notice more of that. And also in higher strata, less, because there's just a portion where a lot of stuff is getting adjusted. And sometimes there's a very rapid, change in direction, and calls get dropped and other things come popping in. And that's just par for the course. Try not to let it throw you too much. We had this, we had this experience with my dog, Luke, where I was asleep and Luke was asleep at the same time. And he never does this. This was not, you know how dogs like twitch in their sleep, and or like they're having a dream, they're chasing a squirrel or something. This was different. One day, he was tapping his hind legs in a very deliberate, totally not random, repetitive pattern. And it was loud. And he was also sleeping someplace where he doesn't normally sleep. That was a thing too. Like one day he was sleeping someplace, and we're like, what the hell are you doing over here? But he was there, and he was rapping in his sleep. And I woke up. It was loud enough to wake me up from a dead sleep. And I really noticed it. I remember looking at the clock, making note of it. I kind of nudged him with my leg to, like, that's really loud. And I kind of tried to move him. And then I went back to sleep. But I was meant to remember it. But it kept going. He kept doing it. And it was a repetitive pattern. In the morning, I found out, this was when Rebecca Jewett was still in the group. I found out that Rebecca and I often have dreams that overlap, like a big Venn diagram where we will both experience the overlapping portion. That happens a lot. But she heard it. She was hearing things that were going on in my physical environment. The other person who heard it was Anna Reynolds. And I can't remember how this happened exactly, because all I did was wake up, make a note of it, look at the clock, and then we conferred the following morning. But Rebecca heard it, and Rebecca, I guess, was talking to, not in dream time, but like they were talking, they were messaging each other. They were having a conversation via text messenger, and Rebecca or someone said, it sounds like Morse code. And Anna, none of us know, we're not fluent in Morse code, but Anna deciphered it as they heard it. So Rebecca would say it's like ... space, and Anna was deciphering all of it, and she found a Morse code thing, and she basically she decoded all of it. And the message that kept repeating was, "Send my messenger," which I absolutely love, because that's the test, right? And then in the morning, we all, said hello to each other, and we exchanged the stories. And I was like, "Oh no, that's what my dog was doing. That's what Luke was doing. He was just rapping that, and it was like going over and over and over. It woke me up at such and such a time." And that kind of bent our heads. But more and more things are happening. There's less. Everything is becoming very fluid. So the point is, if you're one of the healers who are stepping into offering sessions for other healers, because the first network that we're going to heal, that we're going to care for the carers first. And the reason that we're doing this is because it is essential. It is absolutely essential that we maintain the higher network as pure as possible. There's still a certain amount of work that needs, as the newly awakened ones are coming online. They're denser, right? And they're just beginning their clearing process. So those are the ones that require a lot of healing. We remember how hard that was. We remember our process. We're asking for a kind of a network of volunteer healers who are connected themselves, who have already gone through a certain amount of their clearing process, who are themselves connected to another network of healers that's much broader and much stronger. And we're going to keep the clearing cycle going, so that as you bring up someone in density, their process of clearing gets sped up dramatically, and so that we can take a lot. It's like a vacuum. We're going to take a lot of that. Like, I can clear like nobody's business. I'm capable of clearing a lot of density, or a lot I don't want to anymore. Like, I've done a certain amount. And I've done a tremendous amount, actually. And right now, the best use of me, the optimal use of me, I'm sorry, I'm being corrected. I was going to say, I'm going to be doing what I have been doing. No. They're saying, no, I have to. So apparently I'm being positioned to do something new also. Yes. But, okay, so here's the thing. Every person, as we go up, it's a little bit like stairs. Let's say the ascension process is thus. You could take the elevator, which involves a straight shot. It would basically be like the way we used to go into 4, which is we drop our bodies, we drop all our worldly possessions, we die, and we get taken straight there, but we leave everything. There's another way we're doing it too, which is you go up a sequence of stairs, and everyone is assisting in the up-level process. No one can stay where they are. Everyone has to, as you ascend, you can't stay stuck where you were before. You're going to walk up the stairs. You can't hold on to the banister at the bottom. So it requires 2 things of you. You are going to receive assistance from the person directly above you. Also, obviously your higher self, of course, but there's going to be, you're going to step up into a position that the other person is leaving, and vice versa, because we're going in two directions. It's a wheel. So there are some there are some populations that are bringing the higher energy down, and that is required. It's like a big tire. So one side of the wheel is moving up, and the other side of the wheel, it's the same wheel, is coming down. There are there's one side that's coming down to assist, and we're basically making like a gigantic water wheel, and you assist by picking up some, And then there's another group on the other side that they're going up. Both skill sets are required. You need to do both. So you're going to be able to receive appropriate instruction, or instruction might be the wrong word, appropriate incoming newness. Be open to receive new information that you haven't had before. So you're going to open to question, and you're going to be able to learn something from whatever is above you. The new thing is going to come in. And then you're going to take whatever it is that you have, and you're going to offer it, not force it, but you're going to offer it to those who are directly beneath you. So you're going to mentor someone. And we're asking that you do that free of charge, because I'm not saying unilaterally do not accept money. I'm not saying that money is bad. I'm saying there's it's like tithing. You're going to enter into a network, and the place that we're going requires equal amounts of giving and receiving, energetic exchange. So whatever that means to you, wherever you are at the moment. So I'm not saying, so do whatever you're able to do. If you're able to offer most of your sessions for free, if you're somebody who has a healing modality, or you have some ability to teach, if you've got a lot of information, you can share that for free. If you've got a healing modality, whatever you have, just bring it to the table. And it's the process of offering it without forced transaction. The transaction is going to happen anyway. If you offer something and you just flow it forward, there's no way that it can't come back to you. Of course it's going to come back to you. It's just the nature of the universe. You just have to know that. So you can still partake of money. You can still charge money, but you're going to get the majority of your own personal positioning is going to happen where you put the majority of your investment. So you're going to swim in the ocean that you made. So if you, I'm not saying that money is bad, or you can't have money, you can't have wealth. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, one of my jobs, like I've spent the last 9 years working, for a brief period of time, I've charged $111 for a session, but the vast majority, but I just have this particular job. The vast majority of my work has been on behalf of those who don't even use money. They still need clearing. Most of the species on Earth don't use money. That's just strictly a human thing. And I'm working on behalf of most species who don't use money. They have other kinds of exchange. And though they all need assistance too. And so I came to facilitate that. So most of my energy is there. There are different support systems, and the intention here is to balance all of them without prioritizing without just having a money focus. That doesn't mean money can't be included too. One of my jobs now is to integrate the money system with the natural abundance system, so that we get, the ginormous flow that we're meant to have which is abundance for all species, which also includes their voices being heard. We're just making tremendous amounts of corrections to all things. Where was I going with this? Oh, I was going to talk about this, and then I'll end the call. I'll be back on. I'm going to start to make much more what's the word? I'm sorry, I've suddenly lost language. I'm going to start to do calls more frequently. Thank you. A second. or not calls, live streams, more frequent. Thank you. Because it's instead of one live stream that's longer, I have had a lot of people say, we really wish you would break it up. I can't always do that. It's just kind of the nature of the way it goes. Also, it's very difficult in this place, or it has been. I'm open to this changing, so I'm not trying to pronounce it as true. It's difficult in the living environment that I'm in for me to find any quiet time. And it's very difficult to do these live streams when other people are in the house. It just throws everything off. So I'm very grateful for this. Oh, I was going to talk. Wait, this is really important. I was going to talk about shared breath. Okay, thank you. One of the things in the circuit, this directly relates to circuitry, along with the instructions about the water. I would appreciate it, and this would really facilitate the all of it. If we could breathe in gratitude. This is what James Casey was talking to me. We were discussing this the other day. If we all share a breath, I encourage you, let's say it that way. I encourage you to use this in your own life. The same as I said, don't waste a flushing toilet. And if you're going to drink water anyway, make sure it's intended. It's intentional. Apply everything toward a purpose, all of your daily actions. That includes breathing. So this is one thing that we can really do to facilitate the flow of abundance. Particularly, I would ask you to begin. Yes, we're going to get abundance in the money to all beings. Yes, absolutely. I would ask that we start by breathing in. When you breathe in, that is the feminine energy, and you're taking abundance and money are supposed to really work the way oxygen works. It's meant to be abundant everywhere. And I would like to put into, as we take things into our bodies, I would like to, that which is feminine. So anything that is incoming, if you're partaking of the feminine energy when you take something in. And then the exhale is masculine. And I would ask that, and you could just focus on your breathing, and sometimes people do that to be mindful. But periodically throughout the day, two things. One, I would like you to tap on your karate chop point, because that's going to bring your energy back into flowing the correct direction, as opposed to being reversed. So that's one thing that we need. If you can do that periodically throughout the day, whoever you are, it's going to make all the repairs that we're doing actually work. Because if you are in chronic reverse polarity, as this world has been, as many times, if you're under chronic stress, you pick up chronic reverse polarity, and then none of the other corrections will even stick. They won't work. They won't get through. So the way you can reverse that, you can actually, you're reversing the reversal. So you're correcting it, your energetic field, your polarity, by tapping like this with your karate chop point, and just take a breath. And then when you take a breath, you can do it with me. We'll just, let's bring in a change. So I would encourage you to, the other day when I was working with James, we shared breaths, and then we did it for a count of, like 4 breaths for, or 3 breaths for a count of 4. And then I would go, slower, but we both did it. If you adjust the intention, you breathe in and you say thank you for this breath, and you both are in gratitude for one another, You can help with the homeostasis. You can help with the equilibrium of the planet if you do it on behalf of a group. If you do it on behalf of warring parties, so that's really important. On behalf of governments, on behalf of whatever. If you wherever you find strife, if you do this with the people that you're working with, if you're a practitioner, if you have a session, I encourage you to do it on behalf of something. You're encouraging a flow of peace between opposing parties, whatever the opposing party is. You could do it yourself. Just breathe in gratitude. I am grateful for this breath. Or say it any way you want, and you can play with it. If you say something by rote, it's going to bring the energy of stability, because it's something that is repeat and the same every time. So if you're in need of stabilization, you can say, the Ho'oponopono. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Or you can choose a mantra or something that's going to be the same every time, and it will help you bring stability to your speech, whatever. But sometimes you need, if you're going up, depending on the direction you're going, you can breathe in and play with the gratitude expression. Thank you so much for this breath. How did you know I wanted a breath? I was so gaspy for air. I can't wait till I breathe again. Thank you so much. Let's do it again. Thank you for the breath. Thank you. That was enjoyable. Thank you. That was refreshing. Change it up every time. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to adapt things. Bring in the energy that you need and then say thank you for that. If you do it with a partner, you'll be a bridge. That's really important. So regarding the financial system and the natural abundance system, if we all share a breath together, let's say we'll do 3 times. Is that true? Wait a minute. I'm going to do 5. I'm going to do 3 breaths of can we. I'm saying can we do this right now? If you're listening to me, let's do a 3 and 5 combo, because that will facilitate a catalyst for change for the natural abundance systems, the natural systems of abundance. Let's say it's oxygen and all energetic exchange among groups too. All energetic exchange, all abundance, merged with the financial system, the monetary financial system. Let's bridge these now, and let's breathe together. So we'll inhale and we'll exhale, and I will hold up fingers and then I'll put them down. Okay, we're going to do it 3 breaths for a count of 5. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for this abundance. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for the money. Recently, I've been doing an intention where I've been saying that just because the job that I'm doing, I do encourage you to not do this out of greed. Check your own intentions. Just check your own intentions. Make sure that you're not. Make sure you're not doing it out of greed. Just check your intentions is all. I was stacking my intention yesterday, so I was doing it on behalf of everything. And then I was also prompted, I was inspired to say, okay, every time I take a breath, I'm setting the intention. Also, before I even tell you what this is, this will not work for a section of people who are not themselves pure at heart. Like for real. If you're going to take divine laws and apply it toward manipulation of others, if you're going to apply it toward black magic, if you're going to apply it toward gluttony, if you're going to apply it toward, your own addiction or whatever distortion you've got going on, you need to really check your own motivation before you start playing around with energetic circuitry. Make sure you say some sort of a blessing or a prayer that any distortions I have that is not in the highest good of all concerned, may they be thwarted so I don't do myself and the network any harm inadvertently. There are still some distortions. We want to make sure they don't get in. So, but that said, the group that we're working with in the higher network, we know that we are in integrity. We know that we are authentic. We know that we've achieved a level of spiritual maturity and a level of collaboration and a level of cooperation. And we all have each other's backs, and we all genuinely want all of the others appropriately cared for, and we're all trying to bring balance as opposed to a further distortion of, greed. There's nothing wrong with having plenty. We are designed and meant to have true abundance and true wealth. And you're allowed to have a house, and you're allowed to have nice clothes, and it's good for you to be healthy and have everything that you genuinely need. So no shame whatsoever for those who are using these sacred tools appropriately. It's really not about judgment. So that said, I was guided this morning to add an additional intention to my breath work, which is I'm trying to expand the amount of financial prosperity that is flowing, especially to that particular group, those of us who have been working for free for a very long time, who are many of us quite desperate. There's a real level of hardship, and that really needs to be addressed first before we go. We are always assisting the masses, so it's really, but it is about triage. So those of us who have been doing this the longest, who've made the greatest sacrifices, who have gone through the this is where, like, you put the mountain in the valley. That the 11th commandment is put the mountain in the valley. So where is there a humongous deficit? This group largely has it. There's a certain level of workers, and we've been basically we've created the vacuum. So now it's time to feed this particular group. So with that in mind, I was prompted this morning, or kind of inspired this morning, to add to my own intention with the breath work and say, every breath I take, first I just started yesterday, every breath I take is $10,000 into the network. It goes, so it's going through me. So the rule is you're going to feed yourself first and make sure that your own cup is full. So I will draw it through myself, but then I'm setting the intention that every breath I take was $10,000, and I say thank you. And then it was my own challenge to myself to extend my comfort zone, since I'm also trying to undo historic patterns of poverty and chastity through antiquity, which are enormous. Also, having been Joan of Arc, I really have carried that program pretty intensely, and also had it put on me from a lot of institutions. And then this morning, I thought, okay, I'm comfortable doing that with $10,000 for every breath, knowing that the reason I'm going to receive it is because I'm going to also send it up to others. I'm trying to expand my own position to become a philanthropist for the globe. That's one of the things that I would like to step into. That's a role I would like to step into. So how do I get there? I have to change myself and expand to meet it. So if I'm uncomfortable receiving great amounts of wealth, if I want all of these communities to get up and running, I need to be able to receive in quantities so that if someone said, here's the money from the Vatican, where should we put it? If I were handed a certain level of responsibility, could I actually receive it in order to do the job that I have been saying that I want done? I have to take full responsibility for being for what needs to happen. Put me where I am, where I can be of most service in a way that is not going to damage me at all. So it's equally good for myself and all others. So every morning. So anyway, this morning I said, yesterday it was $10,000 a breath. This morning I moved to $100,000 a breath. And I've just been practicing. Every time you catch yourself breathing, it's also really good motivation to take deeper breaths, right? But you say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I accept. Thank you. That's much better. I feel the relief already. Thank you. I'm equalizing. I'm now bringing in the relief of all restrictions on earth, that we may all breathe easier. You can choose something. If you're worried about air pollution, you can say, okay, today I'm going to breathe clean air, and on behalf, make every single thing can be turned into a prayer. Your entire life is just a prayer if you bother. Just have to think about it or intend it. Just wear it. Wear it, walk it, every single thing, everything you interact with. And that's really when you start to interact with the magic. Everything you do, you can say, I am turning on the light. I am turning on the light for all of the unawakened, for the people that I wish I could reach. Every time you flick a light switch, it is my intention, it is my desire that when I turn on the light switch, somebody else sees God for the first time. And then you feel it. That's how it works. It is my intention that all thirst for knowledge be quenched, that all thirst for God, that all thirst for God, that all thirst for all thirst for love, all thirst for health, all thirst be quenched. That all magic be distributed. That all magic flow through me to those who would eagerly receive. Thank you. And so it is. From $100,000 a breath, I'm going to keep, so I have been doing it with, on a 1000 whatever, because it's a partnership between a commencement of the new, like the leader is going to be the one, and then a line of source that's going to follow the one. The one chooses the direction. So it's the direction of your thoughts followed by all of that source. So let's just see how many people we can get. I'm saying that the wrong way. Let's see how many people are inspired to participate in a similar pattern. It won't work. It will be inert unless you mean it. So you have to participate with your full-heartedly. You bring your authenticity to the table. You bring your authenticity to the act, the way you interact with all of the world. Make everything intentional. You bring your own magic. It's not something that you're linking in with everybody else, yes, but it's all you. And it's going to have the power to the degree that you actually know that. That's the realization. That's the light. That's the gift. When it actually reaches you. And then you can reach all others. You connect on an atomic level with everything else. It still seems far away for a real lot of people. So the group that we're talking to, the group that Bilal is working with, the groups, I should say, the groups are all healers, and we all came here for this reason. And we all have a piece of it. So what we are doing in the higher network is connecting. Love this thing. We're connecting, all of us, right? And then in the middle is the earth and all of those beings who have not yet. We're kind of going to descend on it. It's all percolating. It's all carbonated. And once you've had that experience, you just want everyone else to have it. And so it's all happening, but it is a process we just have to be somewhat patient. It's easy to get overexcited and sometimes want to throttle the ones that aren't getting it fast enough for our liking. Like chop, chop, New York. Let's go. There's an aspect that's really understandable there too, because come on. But they're all coming online. And the ones that have made a decision not to, or they are leaving. They are. They're going to be moved to another system. A lot of people are really concerned about, what's going to happen. What is it going to look like? There's still a lot of fear in the newly awakened, the ones who are just awakening now, and they're just at the beginning of their process. There's still a lot of fear there about a lot of fear. And of course, when we go into fear, we can, it's going to typically it goes in one of two directions. Either there's an explosion of anger that goes out before the deeper feelings are resolved, but usually there's an explosion of anger and it's very blasty, or the fearful ones clutch and there's a desperation, and that tends to constrict and go in and shut down, and that affects all form. And when things get constricted, the fear, it brings everything, it makes everything much more condensed, and then it's hard to reach them. They don't want to come out, they don't want to talk. And then the reason that can pose a danger is because when the gamma rays, when the photons, when the all of the really high intense, these when all of the light codes come in and they're very, very intense on some of those days when we get the really strong waves. Some of us love it, like the Schumann resonance, and we have these solar flares, and some of us feel fantastic. Like we were, you know, we've done a lot of clearing, and that energy, the high vibration, it feels so good to us. We love it. But it feels like getting electrocuted or or highly triggering, really disturbing to, or terrifying. It could be really terrifying to those who are still worried about what's going to happen to their livelihoods. We've all been through it, you know. If you've reached this stage where you're part of the higher network, then you've also been exactly where they were, and you're worried. Most of us in the higher network have suffered, you know, the homelessness, the loss of all of your friends, all of your supports, of your families, death of people, mostly, you know, lost careers, lost possessions, lived through trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, and then some. And we did that in order to assist the ones behind us. So they're coming online now too. We need all healers on deck. I'm not telling everybody to quit their day job, but if you are in a position where you are still having, where you still have a certain level of security, financial security, it's not really secure anyway. So we know that, but, and security doesn't come from possessions and money, and we know that too. Nonetheless, we're transitioning here, and there's a lot of upheaval in order to facilitate the migration of all of these different groups. And we need more people to volunteer. If you have a healing modality, or if you have a level of expertise, or whatever you have, I am asking that you consider how much of it you could freely offer, and then go do that. Sorry, so I get an itch. Yeah, go do that. I often connect people on, I can connect people with healers, or I can point them in a direction. What else do we, this is the last, I was also going to say this, total change of subject. So some people are going to, as our senses come online, a lot of people are just becoming extrasensory for the first time, which scares the crap out of a lot of people who think they're going crazy. They think they're, or they're experiencing somebody in their environment suddenly thinks they're Joan of Arc, or suddenly, and sometimes they are, suddenly sees ghosts, or suddenly they think they're hallucinating. A lot of them will go clutch at the system that they're familiar with. So if they go the pharmaceutical route, oh my gosh, I hope they don't. Let's encourage them to not go onto, Angel calls it chemical incarceration. That's really something that I'll talk about a different time, but a lot of them get really scared when they start to see auras, or they think they're getting a migraine because suddenly they're seeing lights. Or they're suddenly, they're terrified because their children start to say that they see dead, they see dead people, or ghosts, or tulpas, or they start to, a lot of them have concerns, or newly awakened people have a lot of concerns about not only standard things like what happens after we die, but and, you know, ET visitors, or well, a lot of that is happening at night too. Energy and awakening tends to take the path of least resistance. There's also certain things like tower moments where awakening is going to happen whether you like it or not. We're just here to facilitate the easiest transition, as easy as possible. I also get a lot of people who are really worried about their children. How can I communicate with my well, I'll talk about that later. Regarding phenomenon, this is directly related to circuitry. Regarding energetic phenomenon, as you're, and this is something that a lot of the healers may experience, as you start to run more current through your body, as you start to expand, and also as the density is cleared, we're getting a larger energetic flow on an individual and a collective basis. And then you're connecting, you're starting to connect with other healers. Your own channel is beginning to widen. So the energetic flow starts to pick up. So you may start to experience things that even if you're a very experienced healer, maybe you haven't seen before. I remember when, before I was a trained healer in graduate school, I didn't know that I had the energetic system that I have. I had no idea. I was just in graduate school. I had 3 majors. It was very, very intense time. I wore rubber-soled shoes, but I was running so much energetic current through my body, and I was in a state of constant stress. And I remember sparking everything, but not the static kind. You know, sometimes when you build up a static charge and you'll touch something and you'll get a shock. I was doing that when I touched anything always, and the spark never went away. Nobody wanted to touch me. I didn't give my husband a kiss, or there would just be this huge zap. And I remember one time going to turn on a light, and a big blue spark flew off my finger. I touched something, and it was a blue spark, and it went in an arc, and I was like, holy crap. And I was using, this helps. If you start to build up I know now that it was because I was running a lot of current, but I was also in extreme stress and extreme density. And I was also not around any nature because I was in the middle of Manhattan. And I was just sparking everything. And I started using static guard. And believe it or not, this is true. I was going through 1.5 cans of static guard weekly, just spraying myself constantly because I would just it was painful. So I suggest static guard if that happens to you. It was a humongous buildup of prana. I had a lot of chi, and I would just touch something and didn't matter what it was. And it didn't matter how many, I wasn't walking on carpet and scuffling my feet. It had no explanation. Well, it did have an explanation, but now I know it was related to my own energetic circuitry, which is unusual. There are different energetic systems, and some people have, it's not a matter of being better or worse. They're designed to do different things. So anyway, I just had a particular role. And yeah. So how does that translate to your environment? As you start to work, I just want you to bear it in mind, because as you start to work, if you're doing private sessions with people, certain things that you're accustomed to doing may not work. You may have to, also, you're going to be able to partake of the, it could go in either direction. Either you're going to be able to lay your hands on and whatever system, typically, if it was a standardized system, like I'm a Reiki master, but I know I never use Reiki anymore. I don't have to. I can walk into a room and look at something and simply intend that it heal, or I can touch it and it heals. I don't have to do any of this. I'm not saying it's wrong to do any of those. If and that, you know, Reiki is one of those, any of the standardized things, the standardized modalities that have a methodology and a way that you have to travel. You have to learn these rules in order to let them go. That's just true. Most energy healers, or many, that I would say the majority that I know, they start with Reiki typically, often. They'll start with Reiki and then they will add a whole bunch of other modalities, and then they will just become their own modality. And typically we're all our own modality now anyway, and we bring ourselves to the table. And as soon as we add ourselves, we incorporate ourselves into the system, into the network. And then since the network is a network and it's all connected and all moves like water, whatever frequency, this is why it's a healing network. Whatever your person, let's say that you're working with a client, or you're working with whoever the person is that you're healing, if it's a person, whatever they need, if it's in the network, it can come through you. So it doesn't have to be yours particularly. You're just facilitating you're being the facilitator. So it has nothing to do with you, really. Not necessarily, I mean, it does, because everything is traced back to your energetic signature. And we also give credit where credit is due. We take appropriate credit, we take appropriate responsibility, but we also give appropriate responsibility and appropriate credit. But as you're facilitating, it's not just, you can simply intend the well-being. You don't have to figure out how to do it anymore. You simply you visualize and intend the wellness. You see the finished condition, you see the wellness, you see the light, and then you just apply it. You just deliver it. Make sure you keep yourself clean. Make sure that mind your own vibrational hygiene is really important, so that you examine yourself for any distortions. It helps sometimes to have a witness to that. So if you find, I did that today, where I went, I found an error. I did something a while ago that I didn't intend. I said something unkind that wasn't intended to be unkind, but I said it in a harsh way, and it's been bothering me. So today I went back, I found the person, and I made sure that the correction was made. Not because she was still being harmed by it. In fact, she wrote me something that said, "I haven't thought about that since." And I said, "Yeah, but I thought about it several times a week since I did it." It was a caustic remark that it wasn't intended to be. I know I didn't intend any harm, but it was a criticism. It was in the wrong group. It was I belong to a lot of groups, and some groups are for artists who actively seek critique, and I participate in those groups, and I like them. And people sometimes send me things and say, tell me what you think of this figure drawing or something. And I was in a different group and somebody showed their artwork and I responded wrong. I just gave a critique when she needed encouragement. And then, but I didn't, and I don't know, it was not a huge deal, but it was important for me to correct myself. It was also important for me to reach out and say, by the way, that was shabby of me. And I caught myself on it. I want to make sure that I make the correction. Because if I'm carrying, I don't know, anything, it's slight. It's not like it's a huge distortion. But if you know, just examine yourself. And if you know that you did something that you could do better, make sure you apologize, even if it's a long time standing. So, yeah, that's all. Just keep yourself in alignment and make sure that if you're doing this work, so one of the nice things about being in the network, for example, like Queen's Chamber, I love this. Queen's Chamber, the group of 5 women. One thing I really love it. So we don't have a lot of disagreements. We really don't. But everybody has each other's backs, and everyone has is able to manage a tactful correction or a how do you handle it when if a trigger comes up. So one thing we don't do, which I love this group for this, we don't sweep it under the rug. Usually what will happen is someone will say, boy, I'm triggered by that. And that's as far as it goes, because we just all see that somebody was triggered. Somebody was upset. It's vented. No one is wounded. If any, there are grievances that are just, if anything comes up, it's just immediately expressed. It's immediately witnessed. And there's no blame. There's no, it's just beautifully handled. It's just beautifully balanced. And if we can just, if we allow all of everything else to extend from that balance, and we keep it all aligned, and everyone is looking out for not really watching for potential problems, but we all share this awareness of the way things are supposed to move. And so if there's a particular anything, someone steps on attack. So ailments, this is interesting. Ailments typically tend to be shared, and I don't mean to, everything gets picked up by everyone else. So in terms of the synchronicity, like the reason that we're bringing people from density into the higher network with care is because we don't want to bring in too much too soon, so that it would kind of, we don't want it to harm the newness of harm the level of well-being. There's only so much we can do. So we can handle. We don't want to. All of us are tired of hurting, and we need this to be over now. But it's very interesting. For example, if we have a group that's operating very well, and it's time to bring somebody else in, or we have room for somebody else. If somebody, let's say, has a bad backache, if we connect with them as healers, everyone in the group might take the extra intensity from. We're not going to take it off that person necessarily completely if it's actually theirs, but we could take an injury and everybody feels a little twinge. Oh, so I started to say about so that brings me back to James Casey when we were and the man in the river with a tooth. So on Yom Kippur, so there was this that happened, and this is directly related. He had an abscess tooth. It was really hurting. He stood in the river. He did the thing with the salt. We had a synchronicity with Tomer in Tel Aviv. Tomer was clearing for the divine masculine or the masculine collective, who's really been in a state of extreme density in Israel. One of the days following, so I do a lot of cross-connecting people too. So we connected Tomer with Stuart. Also, a lot of people had been eating I should say that too. A lot of people have been eating for Tomer because while he's been clearing, he was experiencing a lot of digestive disturbances, and his stomach was just, he was unable to really handle a lot of food. But he still needed those physical frequencies and a lot of comfort food, etc. So I had other people eating for him. So we said, for example, I felt that he needed applesauce. There was a point that I felt that I wanted to feed him applesauce. He didn't either want applesauce, or for some reason he wasn't able to get whatever. I asked somebody else to eat it on behalf of him. I asked Stuart. I said, "Can I connect you and Tomer? And would you eat applesauce for Tomer?" So Stuart said he would, and then I connected somebody else with Tomer, and I said, so Tomer had said he wanted he was working with a lot of inner child fear, and he wanted comfort food that a child would want. So it's very important to stay totally out of judgment about any dietary fluctuations while you're doing the circuitry work, because the energy as it's passing through you often requires the inverse wave. So on one hand, it is very, it really is a temptation to want to stay as pure as possible. And I'm not saying there's not a place for it, because there is. We will totally get back there. There was a point when I was clearing that I only wanted, water spiraling. Like I couldn't stand food. Sometimes in order to facilitate a specific correction, you need to apply the inverse wave. And if all things have a place in the system, at some point I will discuss factory farming and meat and veganism and all sorts of junk food. That's really, in fact, I will do it in the next live stream because that's really important. But right now, at this juncture, we're not in a place yet where, and this is for a real good reason. And this live stream has already been 3 hours and 26 minutes. So I don't want to go into all of the different, the Food Network yet. But I will. That's a whole other thing. But at this time, if you're having a sudden craving as you're clearing, as these energies are moving through you, if you're experiencing a sudden craving for something that just seems bizarre, like I don't eat that, I encourage you to go with it if you can bring yourself to do it. One thing I admit I'm having a hard time with it. I don't eat pork. I barely eat meat. My guy, really, there was a reason that I had to eat potatoes and pork and bacon, which is just one thing. Like, yes, it's delicious, but it's on principle. For so many reasons, I don't want to do it. I knew that I had to, because of the nature of my job, in order to undo certain cultural ancestral programs related to Jews not eating pork, all sorts of things related to pork. I had to actually consume it in order to release certain programs related to being too rigid and beliefs that are too rigidly held, related to poverty, chastity, related to money, all sorts of things. It was very difficult for me to do that. It really was. I'm still not there, but it was a part of getting out of judgment. There's a certain automatic rejection. We've been working on any place where there is softening the energy of any place which has an automatic flinch response. That response in and of itself is one of the things that has to be ameliorated. So any energy of xenophobia, it's part of bringing peace and harmony to the planet. It's not that you can't have a preference and also a very strong preference. So that's also part of a longer conversation, and I will address it again. I feel like I went off on a tangent. Oh, I was going to talk. I'm still talking about flying objects. Um, if so, I did want to say this: as you start to link with other healers, as you start to run more current, energetic current, try not to get too freaked out. Take a step back from flinching and freaking out and going into fear if you suddenly start to see phenomenon in your environment that never happened before, like something that could be ascribed to like a ghost or a poltergeist, or something like objects moving. We talked in my other live stream about blipping crystals, which is something that actually happens. But if objects start to move, or like, like suddenly, I don't know, suddenly something gets knocked over, or something was here and now it's there. And sometimes there could be so many reasons for this. Sometimes it's a matter of fluctuating timelines, and objects are suddenly in different locations or different colors, etc. That happens all the time. I encourage you to just kind of go with that. The other thing that's happening is, if something, for example, because I don't want you to get too freaked out if it happens, if you suddenly see phenomenon that's moving, like I don't know, like you may have heard of like shadow people or ghosts, or things that are moving, like a stack of papers that's on the table that suddenly, like, there's no wind or nothing, and suddenly just gets picked up and it's spread across the room. It's very easy to ascribe a mean consciousness to that. Like it's there must be a spirit here who's throwing something at me. Not necessarily. A lot of this stuff is just energetic currents that are picking up, that are interacting with other energetic currents. There are a lot of kind of like loose cross currents, a little bit, that it's not necessarily. I just want you to watch your own thinking, and don't jump to the conclusion that it is a malevolent entity, that there's that you've got to cut your cords, you got to protect your house, you got to burn a whole bunch of sage because there was a spirit there. Just watch yourself, because the lens that you see it through, you're moving into terrain where energetic strata, where there's faster and faster instant manifestation. You're getting, there's less of a time delay. And if you suddenly are thinking, I've got to guard myself, I've got to watch myself. Granted, I'm not diminishing the fact that many of us have been, absolutely, yes, we have been, had the subject of a lot of dark attack, etc. And at lower bandwidths, does that happen? Oh, yes. But use your own discernment. It's not going to help if you get terrified, and a lot of the phenomenon in our environments are very benign. Like if you suddenly see orbs, or if you suddenly see, I really felt like I was melting for a long time. Sometimes when energetic currents come in, the as it moves through density in our bodies, as certain things are being readjusted, it felt like my body was full of electric eels. It was just really, it's a little queasy feeling. I also got a lot of, it just felt like my whole body felt like I was just like melting wax or something. But if you get phenomenon happening in like in your vicinity, in the house, things happening with the electricity, or sometimes we do get entity attachments. Sometimes there are tulpas. Sometimes there are, there are dead relatives or spirit guides, or spirit guides of all kinds. But I'm just saying, watch your own fear level, because like attracts like. So you can say that to just pass that on to any clients you may have too, as you step into service. Encourage them, I would say, encourage them not to, definitely encourage them to explore on their own. If, I will go into tools at some point too. I would encourage them to stay away from Ouija boards. It's like hitchhiking. Will you get a spirit? Almost certainly. But it pulls from a certain strata that's very low level, fourth dimension. So it's possible. It really depends on you. You're going to get a matching frequency. So frequently these things are marketed to those tools. I'm not talking about tarot cards or oracle decks, things like that, but specifically Ouija boards, where it's set up and it's marketed to a target group who are very naive and typically frightened, a little spooked out already. They tend to themselves gravitate toward fear. They're going to turn off the lights and they're going to, they're already a little freaked out. So they're going to attract something that's going to match their own frequency. So I'm not saying you can't use a Ouija board and get a high, you could talk to your higher self with a Ouija board if you want to. It's a tool like anything else, but you also have to learn how to use it. So it's going to depend on you. So if you're full of fear, especially if you're in a group of people who are novices and already kind of liking the taste of fear, you're going to get a match to that. I remember my daughter came home from not Calico. Cricket did this one time. She came back from middle school, and there was just a kind of a game that they were doing, which was I never heard of this. It was something where you take a pencil and you take it was kind of like a homemade spinner. And it was a little bit of an oracle, like a spooky oracle game that was a little bit like a Ouija board. Whatever. I talked to her and all her friends about it, but it does make me think. There was a thing where you take a pencil or a dowel or something, you put another one on it, and you write like a yes, no compass with answers on it, and then you spin the you kind of tap the pencil on top and it spins around and then it points to something. And they were saying, Charlie, Charlie. So like, we're going to talk to a spirit whose name is Charlie, Charlie. And the question was, you ask Charlie a question. That's the game they were playing. And I came upon these girls playing this game. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not a good idea. But I overheard, because they have to get up their nerve to ask a question. So they're already a little, they're feeding the fear and they're kind of into it. And the question I heard one girl asked was, Charlie, Charlie, do you want to hurt us? And I intervened at that point. But because of course you're going to get a yes answer. Whether there's a Charlie there or whether... yeah, of course you are, because that's the one you wanted. So they don't know enough at that point. At that point, they don't know that anything about manifestation. So as we go up in strata, you're gonna kind of have to talk certain ones off the ledge sometimes. And but I do urge you not to shut them down if they get really, really excited, because I would so much rather have someone awaken and be really proactive or really into their own power. Oh, I started to say about David Wilcock. I remember hearing something probably quite some time ago, some years ago, where I just did a little offhand remark. It's not really a criticism of him. I'm a huge fan of his. But it was something like, he was saying that he got a lot of people telling him that they were one person or another, and he's the reincarnation of Edgar Casey, and it then I was Joan of Arc. So my ears perked up. I paid attention to that, and I remember him saying, I always look askance at these guys when they come, you know, I was God and I'm God and I was Christ, and you know, I really take a dim view of that. And I was thinking, well, I just disagreed, because more power to you. More power to you. If you come online and you step into it, it is so much harder to get people to step up. I don't, very often there's just there's a bit of an overcorrection that's very predictable. So the more eager you are to serve, if you come online whole hog, if you've got an earlier, somebody who's just now waking up and they come online really strong and they're really gung-ho, please don't shut them down and say, you're crazy, you're not God, you know, you weren't about, just say, thank you for taking your power. Thank you for taking your power. How can I help you facilitate your mission? What needs to happen according to you? And can we confer about what adjustments you might like to see? So I feel like I'm going to end this live stream here, but I think I'm probably going to. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to talk to Bilal, and we're going to start to connect some of the groups in a bigger way. And if you want to, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing about booked sessions, because I have been working for whatever. If I start to charge money, there's a higher reason for it. We need to access I actually have to access the money, and it's going to have to come through me in order to get it to go someplace else. So I know that that's part of my job, is to bridge the extremes of the financial system, particularly in the United States. So I've already spent a great deal of my life, decades. You know, I've been homeless. I've been totally destitute for a really long time. And right now things are fine. Whatever. I've been living on 0 point. I'll put it that way. I know that part of the next thing I have to do, the next step for me, is to access the large amounts of currency. So please take it easy on me. If you see me start, you know, telling other people they've got to start working for offering some pro bono services, while I don't actually have that piece of information yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to start to offer. Right now, I do maybe one session a week that's paid, but it's usually a lot less than that. I've been doing almost all of my work entirely is by donation, and it's been sparse, really, really lean. So I don't know how I don't know how I'm going to steer it. I'm really going to confer with my higher self, and I will be led. I'm trusting that I will be led. And I also know that what I do, everyone behind me in the circuit is going to. So I know that I set the standard of care that's one of my responsibilities for the network behind me, is establishing a certain standard of care, so that people who come behind me don't have to go through the living on 0 point. We are going to talk about it, but so that we don't have people who's stepping into service and immediately losing their homes and immediately, you know, starving and, you know, whatever. We're not going to have any of that crap. So we have to connect with the financial system in a way that it provides all things, well-being for all parties. So please take it easy on me if you see that I suddenly start charging money. I don't actually know how that's going to work yet, but I will be led. I'm not too concerned about it either. I have full confidence and trust and faith that we are on the right path, and this is working beautifully. Okay, I love you. I'm going to wait for this to It's 34407. I love you all. I'm going to stop it right there.